It's been a while, brother.
Good morning, Florina. Good morning, Faraz.
Good morning, Michael.
No.
Ohayou gozaimasu, Michael.
Ohio.
Michael-san.
Good morning, Florian.
Hello. Hi. Gozaimasu.
Florian, I get to be next to you.
This is wonderful life.
You have a Michael Florina sandwich
If Michael is there, but if Michael is there, I know that because you have a background. Oh, it's doing. Yes, we have this too.
I love that that's just queued up.
Okay. So we're going to do, let's see, this one should run into, after Tech News Around the World, we've got coming up next, MedTech News Edition in 2.5 hours. With Heyman from Toronto. Woo! Hot. It's going to be hot. And you are listening to the fantastic sounds of Spoon from Austin, Texas, with their smash hit single, The Underdog.
One of my favorite songs, Tyler.
Is it really?
It's beautiful.
It's a great
The Underdog
jam.
will survive.
You got the mariachi band. Okay. Let's see here. A lot of tweets coming in from the Tech News Twitter account at TNATW. Thank you to everybody sending those in. And we got the Tech News Around the World gift shop is now open and ready for business. And you can find it by just going to technewsaroundtheworld.com, where you will see an incredible assortment of beautiful people wearing very beautiful shirts and tank tops and sweaters and hoodies and pullovers and pillows and laptop skins and phone covers. And my favorite item is the clock, actually. I love that clock. And really cool backpack and thermoses and coffee cups and pins and COVID masks. Boy, we got everything. And even aprons. Jesus. So if
what about tattoos?
Yes, no tattoos and no smart toilets, but we're working on those. We're just getting started. Hopefully we'll have all of Amazon covered in these Tech News logos by the end of the week. Just give us another few days. So yeah, it's at technewsaroundtheworld.com, where you can see all of this fantastic, flashy swag for you and your smart, beautiful friends this holiday season. So the biggest story on the web, let's wait for the big, juicy stories. And boy, there are some big, juicy stories. But, the room will be doubled in size in the next 15 minutes and then double again 15 minutes after that. That's why we normally wait about 20, 30 minutes to really jump into the juicy shit. But people are sending in tweets fast and furious. And Amanda, I love this one that you just sent in. That is, I can't believe this thing. This robot, Hyundai robot. This is truly unbelievable. Amanda, are you on stage? She's not. So
She's just joined. Amanda.
Okay.
You there?
So there's a whole bunch of hands raised. She's probably got her hand raised. Jesse and Jeff. Sorry, Jeff and Jay and John and Harry. Welcome everybody. And then there's a new person in the audience. Kind of looks like Wolverine, if I'm being honest. But his name's Anand. He's an influencer. He's a socializer. He's a motivator. And let's and then we got Anne Marie. Welcome. But let's see what Anand is all about, shall we? Because everyone else on stage is a oldie and a goodie and a extended family. And let's see if we got one more seat at the table for Anand. Anand, are you there? Welcome to Tech
Come on
News.
up, Anand. Come on up. Double invites.
You're invited. Jump on in, Anand. Tell us about yourself.
We don't bite.
He's not gonna.
I
Really,
understand.
after the way that JT you said that.
I understand his apprehension. So he's going to hang out there in the hand raised zone for just a bit, with his Wolverine looking self, and we'll jump right into it. So I guess we got to wait for Amanda, but Amanda just tweeted in just a few minutes ago, and I just tweeted out from the Tech News Twitter account at TNATW. You really have to see this. It's a Hyundai robot. Oh, it just keeps getting better. This thing is just borders on absurd. I don't know if this is a spoof. It's that crazy. It's a 1 minute video, and you really have to watch it till the end. And it comes from Mashable. It's like a mini Mars rover. It's a robot. It drives all over the damn place, and it looks like a miniature Tesla Cybertruck. And then the top pulls off. It's got room for storage. It starts crawling around like a goddamn spider at about halfway through the video. And then, if you get to the end of the video, it up and starts fucking flying all over the goddamn place. This is like the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Tyler.
Yes.
I also shared this morning that Hyundai are acquiring Boston Dynamics, the dancing dog, for $1.1 billion.
Exactly right. Yeah, so that was a big headline. Boston Dynamics, maker of Spot the Dancing Robot Dog, and what's his new friend, some of his other friends, the stars of some of their other viral videos over the years. They have a lot of dancing robots over there at Boston Dynamics.
Didn't that acquisition happen like a while ago?
I think what happened is they invested and now they've acquired. Because
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The investment was a while ago.
Yeah, I was like,
they
I
were
thought they
gonna
bought
buy
them a minute ago.
No, now they're just absorbing them completely. But they are, I mean, most people know them for cars, but they are huge in robotics and manufacturing.
Well, apparently so, because Boston Dynamics is one of the big names in robotics, one of the biggest. Kind of a bold move, and really interesting that they've been acquired so many times. You know, SoftBank and Google and
SoftBank.
SoftBank.
KDDI.
Oh, you heard the commercials. Oh,
of course.
Oh boy.
SoftBank.
Yes, PlayStation. So the friend that we have a friend in the audience who joins us every day from Germany, who is very close with the head of strategy for Boston Dynamics. He did an email introduction, and we chatted. And he's interested in joining us here, although he was a little concerned that we might be anti-robot people, which I assured him we are not. We're open-minded, and we really want to know, what he sees as the future of robots from the Boston Dynamics perspective. And it was right when we were talking about how the robot dog was taken off the streets of New York City due to kind of public outcry prematurely. Like I think he was only one day on the job, and the citizens of New York City were like, hell nah, get that robot dog out of here. And so they sent it back to the factory early. And so I thought, I would love to hear them out on how they see this playing out, especially with the kind of public outcry that they received, right off the jump. So anyway, Evan is retweeting this Mars rover Hyundai robot, spider crawling, mosquito flying, robotic. I don't know what to call this thing. Evan, it's called Tiger is the name of it.
I don't know what it is, but I want one, and I want it in blue.
It's called Tiger. It stands for Intelligent Ground Robot, and was designed to be unscrewed so it can carry payloads over rough terrain of its own. And indeed,
the Army's going to love this.
It can roll like like a car, and it can start. It has legs. It's like a car with legs, and then all of a sudden it starts climbing upstairs, and then it's zooming all around like a badass. I mean, and then all of a sudden it pops out these drone wings, and it becomes a goddamn drone and starts flying. This is truly wild. That's unbelievable.
I think the drone's a separate vehicle, but the rest of it, I think, it's all in one. The wheels and the walking, it's an incredible looking thing. I want one too. I have no idea what I'd do with it, but it looks cool.
Well,
Does anybody know if Hyundai are going into self-driving cars? Is this like a declaration of them saying we're not interested in that? We're going to use all the AI stuff and the terrain mapping from Boston Dynamics and their other acquisitions to do the self-directing drones instead?
I think they're more getting ready for the dystopian apocalyptic scenario. It's according to this video, the combination of Boston Dynamics and this Tiger robotic, crawling, flying thing. It has a very what's that Will Smith movie at the end of the world?
Legacy, Legion.
Yeah.
Hell something.
I Am Legend. I Am Legend.
I Am Legend.
This has a very I Am Legend zombie apocalypse type vibe. So I kind of like where their head is at. They're going pessimistic. It's all going to get real bad real fast. But by the way, so does the Cybertruck. And Elon jokes, does he not? I mean, quite literally, like that the truck is apocalypse ready when he's banging it with a fucking sledgehammer, right? And throwing steel balls at the windows. He says it's like zombie.
They just announced it. He's adding solar panels to the rear chassis, so it'll be even longer range.
Yes, we tweeted that out yesterday, but I leaked that out like Jesus. That was actually inspired the day after the Cybertruck launch, which is now, it was like December 12th, a year and a half ago, which means he said it would take about 2 years for the first ones to roll off the floor. So that's about 6 months away. And it looks like they're on track for that actually. But the day after the launch, so December 13th, was somebody tweeted and said, hey, this rear, the back of the truck has this, rolling cover, which they showcased. And somebody said, could you make that a solar panel? And he said, ooh, that's a great idea. Yeah, let's do that. And apparently they're trying to do that. And that would indeed extend the range of the truck and, or at least help recharge the battery quicker. And in a pinch when you're, off the grid or you run your battery down to nothing, could get you out of a little bit of a jam. So really,
speaking of which, I tweeted out, Tyler, Tesla's Dojo supercomputer.
Yes.
Training its autonomous tech. Not sure if you covered that yet.
Oh, that's huge. That is huge. Let's do that one. How long ago did you tweet that? I want to retweet that.
I just tagged you 10 minutes ago. So
okay. I'm looking for it.
Basically, it has to teach systems to Tesla's Dojo supercomputer will train its own vision-centric autonomous tech. So basically, it's a Tesla cloud. And I wonder what else they could do with a Tesla cloud. But essentially, it's a high-performance computer to do all their deep learning on. And knowing Tesla, it's going to blow things up in the autonomous space.
Well, you're underselling it. It's the 5th most powerful supercomputer in the world. And it was revealed by the Tesla Senior Director of AI, Andrej Karpathy, at an event recently, like 2 days ago. That's why it kind of became a headline. And essentially, this supercomputer is going to be used to train the AI algorithms on which the cameras on the car will be able to execute autonomous driving. And that has been the long-term kind of risky bet that Tesla has been making in the autonomous space that everyone was so critical about and very skeptical. And Ben can jump in here as a Tesla owner, that Tesla took a rather unique gamble that autonomous driving would be enabled by cameras only. And meaning that you put cameras around the car, the cameras will understand what they're seeing, that this is a dog and a dog behaves this way, and this is a balloon and a balloon behaves this way, as compared with their competitors from Google and Waymo and the likes, who are using what do you call it, radars, for lack of a better word, lidar.
Yeah, lidar.
And that that don't understand what they're looking at, but they know there's an object there, but they don't know what that object is, let alone what it would do, the nature of that object, that the dog behaves a certain way, that the balloon behaves a certain way, and or that it's an old person versus a young person, and an old person's going to walk slower and behave in a particular way, or etc. So this supercomputer now becomes very interesting, because Elon's position essentially has been, well, we are betting on the fact that AIs and image recognition are going to advance much more quickly than you think they will. And hence, we're going to have autonomous vehicles. They, meaning Google and the conventional autonomous crowd, took the safer approach in the short term with LiDAR and whatnot. And that's why I said Tesla took a more ambitious, kind of riskier bet by banking on cameras that would be able to recognize what they're looking at, because that technology didn't exist at the time they made that bet, in a way. Yeah. And now with this supercomputer, they're betting they can train these AI algorithms to become very aware and enable autonomy. And it's going to be very interesting in the very near future to see if Elon was right. Ben, you want to jump in?
Well, I was just going to say they do things in a very, very different way. So you've got the Waymo cars, which are well over in California, well ahead of the Tesla cars in terms of what they can do. But they're doing it using so much power that it would reduce the range of a Tesla down to its knees, just the compute power. They have millimeter accurate maps of the area, and they're not allowed anywhere where they don't have like super accurate maps, and so on and so forth. So they're making very, very specific drivers that are very use loads and loads of power, whereas Tesla are doing something very different. You can jump in a Tesla on any road anywhere in the world and have a go at autopilot. Now, it won't always succeed. In fact, quite often in the UK on a country road, it'll crash within probably 30 seconds, something like that, and crash quite horribly if you didn't grab the wheel. It'll kill you. But it has a go, and it's an okay driver everywhere, whereas Waymo is an extremely good driver in a tiny geographic area. So it is fascinating to see. The progress in the UK has been stalled quite badly for the last year or two. I've been quite disillusioned with the progress, mainly because of regulatory limitations. But looking at what's going on in the States with the full self-driving preview over there, it's looking like what they're suggesting is going in the right direction. So it's a unique approach. Yeah, they're probably right. They're probably right. The passive optical, as Musk calls it, you're just using light. The road, everything about the road is set up to communicate to the cars and the drivers in light, not in LiDAR. So LiDAR can't read a sign on its own. You need to add cameras. And Musk is saying, if you're going to have to add high definition cameras anyway, what's the point of this LiDAR stuff? It becomes a bit of a moot point as the cost of LiDAR drops. So whereas I think out of stubbornness, Tesla won't add LiDAR. I wouldn't be surprised if other manufacturers do stick with cheap future LiDAR in addition to the rest of their sensor suite. But yeah, it's all cool.
And then Renjit just sent in a quick reminder that Elon tweeted today that he's planning a Tesla AI conference. And I wonder if anyone caught any more context around that other than just his tweet stating as such. But it's certainly relevant to precisely this headline that Evan just shared about this supercomputer that's going to train the AIs, notably the cameras, to bring the...
Yeah, what happens when Tesla opens that up like Amazon did with its AWS cloud and begins to offer utility computing? Watch out.
It's worth noting on that one of the things that Andre, I believe his name was, said was that the installation is one of 3, and they're already planning the next one, which will be proportionately even more powerful. So as impressive as this, 1.5, 1.7 exaflops, 6,000 GPU installation is, they're already planning the next 2, which are going to show this one up. So they're in this for the long game for sure.
So I just retweeted Elon's tweet, which said, looking at holding Tesla AI Day in about a month or so, we'll go over progress with Tesla AI software and hardware, both training and inference. Purpose is recruiting, and you got to love his transparency, honesty in that. And that's what we here in Tech News around the world have been correctly accusing him of, is that a lot of his showboating is entirely to make sure he continues to recruit the best talent, particularly AI talent, which is why He almost exclusively only speaks at either AI or energy events, because he needs the best AI talent in the world to bring his vision to life, essentially. So, yeah, indeed, the purpose is recruiting AI talent for this Tesla AI Day. In about a month or so, we will do a live stream about it while it's happening live, and bring in the best AI folks that we know to watch it together here in Clubhouse. And similarly, there's another live stream event happening exactly a week from today, at the end of this program where we are meeting now, where we will go for a couple of hours. We will do that event. It's on July 30th in this time zone. We will do tech news for 2 hours. We will then do the monthly special meetup where we bring together investors and startups once a month to pitch each other. Where we did Asian investors and startups, and then a month ago we did African investors and startups. This month we are doing Middle Eastern investors and startups with the help of our friend Faraz, and it should be a lot of fun. Some very notable Middle Eastern investors and startups pitching together live on stage and sharing and teaching us what are the biggest opportunities and misconceptions about the region, and should be a lot of fun, as it always has been when we did Africa and Asia. So that is, and then that's going to go for 1 hour, again on the 30th, July 30th, and then immediately after that we go into the Shopify's live stream event, which is a first as far as I understand, and that is an hour and a half keynote with the CEO Toby talking about the future of Shopify, one of the most interesting companies. If you follow us regularly here, you know very well just how interesting Shopify is, and excited to see what their live stream event is all about. So, but hopefully this Tesla AI Day, the live stream details will be announced soon. And as soon as they are, we will add them to the calendar. And by the way, that event that I just mentioned, the Shopify event on the 30th, June 30th, is already in the Tech News calendar, which you can see by clicking on the title of this room and scrolling through all of the upcoming events, which, by the way, right after this event, we have the MedTech event, all kinds of events, EdTech events, cryptos events, AI events, and then the special event on the 30th with the Middle East investors, which will also have the Shopify live stream event. Anna Marie, you just shared a really interesting article. You want to share this one?
I shared a few. Which one are you looking at?
You're right, you did. Which one did I just retweet? Speedo swimsuit.
Oh yeah, I think I need to have that. No, I just think it's cool that some of the more unconventional players are following in Nike's path and having R&D teams that are really working on integrating sensors and other sort of high-tech gadgetry into what we traditionally think is, wearables, but, swimwear, like, why not, right? I think in the last room I was in, there was a little talk about the Olympics and preparation for Beijing, and there was I think Justin was in the room, a little discussion about all of the potential drama with Beijing, talking about still having its borders shut down, even though 2022 Olympics are coming up. And anyways, I've had Olympics on the brain this morning, and when I saw this Gizmodo thing come up, I was like, that's pretty cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I just retweeted it, and you can see this amazing thing, and it is sort of a wearable smart swimsuit. It's quite wild. Harry, you just shared one about Microsoft that is really interesting.
Yeah, I was just reading the headline. It's on The Verge. Let me pull it up.
It says, I got it right here. Microsoft should face the same antitrust scrutiny as Facebook and Google and Apple and others. According to Jim Jordan, is shining a light on Microsoft. And this has been truly interesting and amazing. No one's really brought this up. That over the past 2 weeks, the U.S. tomorrow is expected to come down hard on Capitol Hill on, Apple, Amazon, Facebook, and Google. And then so is the EU, so is the UK and Japan and India. And then just a few hours ago, another country just jumped into the mix, Canada. By the way, that's another headline we'll get to in about 30 minutes. And sort of the last of the G's, the big economies to jump on this train of cracking down on big tech. But there's one interesting name that's been missing from all of these antitrust big tech crackdowns, which is Microsoft. And Representative Jim Jordan, Republican from Ohio, is calling on Microsoft to face the same antitrust scrutiny as other large tech platforms in a letter to the company on Monday. In the letter, Jordan asks Microsoft President Brad Smith if he believes the company would be affected by the swath of antitrust bills, included in the House. There are 5 bills in total, spanning from offering up more money for antitrust, blah, 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 which it all happens tomorrow. And then the quote is right here. Big tech, including Microsoft, is out to get conservatives. Oh boy, it's a witch hunt. Jordan said in his Monday letter, it is unclear why Microsoft has avoided significant attention from House Democrats. Assumedly, Microsoft would face the same proposed standards in acquiring companies, like taking on the burden of proof and making the data it takes from users more portable and usable on other platforms. But whereas Amazon and Apple would face more structural changes, like selling off private lines of business, Microsoft would likely not be subject to rules. And it's very interesting indeed. However, there's historical context that need to be mentioned here, which is the fact that Microsoft was the first big tech company to come under lots of heat a decade ago. And it was a very substantial heat indeed. And it went on for a very long time. And that all shook out and played out. So I don't know that it makes sense to have them come back in again, except for the fact that a lot of what this is about data collection. And yeah, Microsoft does have a bit of data. They don't have an ad network, really, though. They do have.
Excuse me, they really do.
Do they?
Yeah, hell yeah. How do you think they drive Bing forward?
I'm just fully out of their ecosystem completely.
It's LinkedIn, Tyler. I mean,
LinkedIn. Okay,
Going into the letter, Jim
but
Jordan specifically mentions LinkedIn.
Okay,
and he specifically mentions misinformation on LinkedIn.
Okay,
so LinkedIn has restricted accounts for posts related to COVID-19, citing its misinformation policy. LinkedIn censored posts that the coronavirus originated from a dangerous laboratory in Wuhan, China, as well as posts that criticize government-mandated mask requirements. So he's attacking LinkedIn on that front.
Yep.
And then LinkedIn also censored a post by an opinion editor at the Washington Times about Democrats' abuse of executive orders and removed the post that linked to a study challenging prevailing liberal views on climate change. So yeah, there's several levels to this. The political front, that he wants heat on LinkedIn for being partisan, and then the other front that they're a data collecting company, I think.
Yeah,
I'm going to tweet out the full letter. I'm just doing the ads right now.
Yeah, in that context, it is. Yeah, Microsoft acquired LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is kind of interesting from a data play and anytime. This is just sort of the problem in politics in America at the moment is if you silence either side for more than 10 minutes, they blow a fucking gasket and think that you're, out to get them and sink their whole party. And we've covered this point many times, and there's much more nuance than people first assume at first blush, and including this Republican representative, I imagine. So, interesting. Yeah, they might as well be part of the same regulations.
And don't forget, I mean, Microsoft Azure is one of the fastest growing software platforms in the world.
And that's a shit ton of data. Yep, it's a good point.
And just to bring to the table, they are also blocking Google's Flock in their content delivery network, as well as towards their web services published on Azure.
Yeah, that's been the other interesting development in the past week. For those who didn't catch wind of this, it's been kind of hush, is that Amazon, through AWS, is essentially defanging Google's new cookie alternatives called Flocks, FLOCs, Federated Learning of Cohorts. And what Johan is saying, because it's precisely his professional area of expertise, is that Microsoft's doing the same through their big cloud, which is called Azure, which is very interesting. It's a bit insider baseball, but it will be interesting to see how that plays out as well. Thank you for that, Johan. So, yeah, I guess we will see if Microsoft gets looped in with the other big tech companies tomorrow on Capitol Hill as part of these 5 new bills in the U.S. and in all of these other countries. Because, as I mentioned right before this headline, was the other headline today in the past few hours that in addition to the U.S. and then Japan and then the EU and then the UK and then everybody, Germany yesterday, and then today, Canada lawmakers pass a controversial bill that would subject the tech giants to the same requirements as traditional broadcasters. The bill now heads to the Senate, and this one is truly, shall we say, Canadian, which it's a bit perturbing because essentially the bill aims to boost the amount of Canadian media, Canadianness of apps while they are in Canada. So, for example, TikTok has an algorithm, right, that they optimize for the most interesting content for the TikTok user at that moment. So does Netflix. So do all the apps, Spotify, etc., yada, yada, yada. And essentially, it seems like one of the purposes of this bill is that it would boost the Canadianness while within Canada, so that it would kind of give a little favor to Canadian influencers and artists within those apps. And so it says the bill would effectively add 3 requirements for digital media companies. They must provide information about their revenue sources. That's a little interesting in itself. Give a portion of their profits to fund and support Canadian content, and which I guess they do. They collect essentially that part. I understand, actually, as strange as it sounds, because Canada, like many kind of socialist countries, collect fund monies, and that they use that to fund the arts, right? Like artists and arts of all kinds, dance and everything. And if they're doing that through traditional media, then they might as well do it to the quote unquote digital medias as well. And no doubt traditional media is crying foul that digital media companies are not held to the same standard. So that part I kind of understand. But it says the bill would effectively add 3 requirements. They must provide information about their revenue sources, give a portion of their profits to fund support of Canadian content, and increase the visibility or discoverability of Canadian content on their apps. And then one of the leading critics of this bill, which is from a law professor at the University of Ottawa, himself a Canadian, says it's not at all clear how this would be implemented. Would Canadians be required to disclose that they are Canadian to meet these requirements? Which is a great point. How do you know which of the influencers on TikTok or all these apps are Canadians? Especially if they're Canadians living in other countries. Like many of the most famous Canadians moved to the U.S. Because so many of the biggest stars in Hollywood are in fact Canadians. So it becomes very strange how to police such a thing. Any comments on that one? No.
Just a quick one, Tyler.
Yeah.
Sorry, just a quick one, Tyler. The first, I mean, it's the whole thing seems like an attempt to control foreign content coming into Canada. And like the first one, for instance, you were saying, I'm not entirely sure the purpose of it. Well, you want to know if a foreign state is financing a massive amount of content that's coming into your country and potentially directing the course of conversation or political stances, no?
You cynical son of a gun.
But Carl, what about this? What if, like, your Coronation Street was not able to be produced because there was no protection for British shows?
I think if Coronation
England
Street,
be England?
I think if Coronation Street was bombed, the whole country would benefit as a whole. But yeah, if you look at it from that sense, does this whole thing not make sense? I mean, they want to confirm your identity, where you're from, what sources your content is from, who is financing that content, what foreign nation has a vested interest in you pushing your content. I mean, this lines up with everything else we've been seeing, no?
Partly. I think in the Canadian sense, I think the main role is just to protect Canadian arts. And especially, remember, Canada's unique in the sense that we've got Francophone and just a diverse community, right? We have a multi-cultural society. And the goal is basically to ensure... Ah oui, juste un peu, mais...
Ah, c'est bon.
Ah oui. So, without le Jean-François, having his shows, like Jean-François, you would actually be able to chime in this more, but how has the 30% Canadian content helped or not in the Francophonie community?
Regarding, I wasn't there, regarding Netflix?
Oui, or anything, CBC or Radio-Canada.
I think it helped a lot. Seriously. I've seen some production being done that are bought by Netflix now that were normally bought. We're not bought, and they will have this stream around the world. So it's a really good thing.
And again, sorry, go ahead. Yeah, no, and also one more thing, like you wouldn't have seen some of the multicultural shows in the US and Netflix if it wasn't for Canada's rules. Because, for instance, the Little Mosque on the Prairie, please check it out, and also Kim's Convenience, same thing, and also other shows too. Even Schitt's Creek is Canadian, right? So I mean, some of those things may not have come on the American airwaves. They wouldn't have been actually. They wouldn't have been actually greenlighted for the airwaves.
Yeah, it's huge because in Quebec we have like a small cultural because of the French language, and it's really small production. Like a budget for a series would be like a 2 million or 1 million, and compare to 50 or something like that. But it's really low.
Just a quick question: would it still be a cynical point of view if you swapped out the word Canada for China? Would everybody on stage have a different point of view of this?
Do they speak French there?
But you get my meaning. That's my take on this. You go ahead.
It would be very different.
No, I get what you're saying.
It would be very different because there's no political friction with Canada.
But one thing that I found really surrounding this is the fact that I feel sometimes that Canada is especially other province are really another United States, another states of the U.S. Really, a lot of times.
Yeah, I lived in Vancouver, right? I did, in fact, for a while, even my first degree there, and it feels like a completely different society if you go to North Vancouver, where also the East Indian community is huge. In fact, I tried to apply for Air Canada when I was a student, and they asked me if I knew Mandarin because they had a huge Chinese community and they want to serve that, right? So yeah. I mean, we have a very, very diverse society, and we all even speak different languages, and everybody, coexisting and living. In Toronto, you take a subway, and you can't even see what is the dominant race there, right? Which is the beauty of Canada.
Yeah, but if you remember something like when you play Civilization game, you can conquer other country by cultural when.
If you go from Seattle and you take a speedboat ride to Victoria Island, it is an entirely different world, an entirely different demographic of people.
And Victoria's BC, Canada, by the way. Sorry, just for the international audience. Sorry, Florian.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
No. Thanks for clarifying.
It's amazing, Victoria.
Yep. So some interesting tweets coming in that I'm retweeting. One from Evan just now, just showing live on the ground crypto transactions on the beach, on Bitcoin Beach in El Salvador. Where local
Why can't we do that here, Tyler, in the U.S.? It's ridiculous. No one supports this.
I know. I hear you. We do essentially the exact same thing here in Southeast Asia, although not on the Bitcoins, but just through the banking system of just the merchant, the tiny, little street food vendors hold up a QR code on their phone and you scan it, just as they do in this video that Evan just shared. And that's how we do it in Thailand now. So if you want to see how most of the world is now paying each other, you can see it in Evan's video that I just retweeted from the Twitter account TNATW. In the case of this video, it's in El Salvador and they're paying and settling via Bitcoin. We do the exact same thing in Thailand, but via our bank accounts, paying directly to each other. Faraz just shared a headline that, speaking of Bitcoin, Visa and PayPal back a $300 million blockchain capital fund. Visa and PayPal have invested in the latest $300 million fund from venture capital firm called Blockchain Capital, which I find a little bit surprising, although maybe not so surprising with PayPal because they now handle Bitcoins, but with Visa, it's kind of interesting. Anyway. Another
they're
one.
Not going after the Bitcoin though. They're establishing the systems to
CBDCs.
manage the flow. Right.
Yeah. Faraz shared another one, ex-Facebook VR executive, and he's actually much more than that. He's the creator of Oculus, and he sold Oculus to Facebook and then was mysteriously kicked out for his political views. If you look at his Wikipedia page and dig down that rabbit hole, he was, that's a really interesting dismissal situation for Palmer Luckey, who is now sort of having the last laugh. He just raised another $500 million for his new startup.
Wow, that's a big raise.
Yeah.
That's a $4.6 billion valuation.
Correct. And you know why when you understand what his startup is doing. It's protecting the southern border of the U.S. Because it's a far cheaper and perhaps better way. And although it kicked off a real firestorm debate here a couple months ago, because they're using drones and the most cutting edge technologies. Keep in mind, he created Oculus, which is the real pioneering VR leader. And now he's pioneering the use of militarized drones and other really cutting edge technologies that you have not even seen yet. He's almost like his own private arm of the military in protecting borders. And he makes really interesting claims that he's going to turn soldiers into superheroes and the like. Really interesting individual, and you can read all about that from CNBC. The name of the company is called Anduril, and there was an incredibly that was a very hot fundraising round that is now we're just announcing. And I just tweeted that out. I myself tried to participate in that fundraising round and was not able to, even though I know Charles, who's one of his dear friends. And Charles's sister is married or dated or engaged to Palmer, and they're quite friendly.
Sometimes on the Robinhood app, Tyler, you have the opportunity to buy into pre-money IPOs. So I've done a little bit of that. It's tiny amounts of money, but it's still fun.
You're exactly right. The Robinhood app just recently started. They announced that they were going to allow their own IPO. Users of the Robinhood app will be able to participate in Robinhood's IPO, and that's truly
Tyler,
a
just
genius
quickly,
way.
sorry to interrupt you, brother. I was away from the phone. That last article, there's a piece in there which I need your help with.
Go ahead.
There's some talk about invisible robots, and if you were trying to participate in the IPO, can you comment on that? What's this invisible robot talk?
I don't know. It could
invisible
be
invisible soldiers, etc.
It could be micro drones. Could be a few things. And that's why I said technologies that you've not seen yet. It was the way that I phrased.
Stealth,
yeah,
maybe?
super stealth technologies. Andreessen Horowitz participated, just to give you an idea of how competitive it was. Founders Fund, which he has very close connections to, as does Charles, both participated. General
Tyler,
Catalyst.
remember that drone thing that kicks out the swarm of bees?
Yep.
You know, you could I don't, for us it's obviously not invisible, but it's less visible than a soldier, right?
Yeah, well, on that front, there was a headline that broke a few hours ago in our previous meeting that Israel's announcing they have just tested the world's first militarized laser, which they claim
frickin' laser,
frickin' laser beams.
Have they not seen Real Genius?
Or Austin Powers, and that these frickin' lasers will be used to shoot down drones. And why is that so interesting? Well, because in the past week, we've been talking about the militarization of drones, just as we are right now because of Palmer Luckey's new company, Anduril, which just raised $500 million. And they are, in fact, militarizing drones to protect the southern border of the U.S., and they will do so around the world with any countries that request their services at probably a remarkable discount to what they normally spend on doing such things, just as Elon Musk is with SpaceX made it far, far cheaper to launch satellites and whatnot, because private innovation is often much, 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 much cheaper than, when governments try and do these things themselves. So,
Tyler, but
yes?
just to put a wrench into this, I'm sure you've discussed this. What if there's a 400-pound hacker sitting in Ukraine, and all he does is just turn on some switches, and that's it? The whole system falls apart.
Correct. Yeah. What if that happens?
But the thing is that if it's under the 16-point list, he's not allowed to.
That's right. That Swedish humor. That Swedish humor strikes again, folks. You got to pay attention when they do it. It's real subtle. So,
can we please stop fat shaming hackers? I resist hackers being
I didn't do it. Some famous person on the internet did it. Okay, all right.
Boy. Oh boy.
I'm just quoting a Twitter quote.
And was waiting for it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Ukrainians. Let's stop fat shaming Ukrainians while we're at it. But and stop hacker shaming Ukrainians, by the way. So it's an interesting topic because a week ago we were talking about militarized drones because it was now revealed that a drone, an autonomous drone, meaning without a human operator, was used in a militarized fashion to attack an individual in Libya. And it made the decision as an autonomous vehicle whether to fire or not on its own, not a human making the decision, which is very interesting. And then we got into the deep dive, and I believe it was Sal on stage who showed us the receipts that there are chips in these drones that enable them to operate with facial recognition, which really raises the dystopian factor by tenfold, does it not? Because now these drones could be assigned to attack individuals based on their face. And then other people were finding articles, as we do here in real time, about these bee-sized drones. And it gets very interesting very quickly. But indeed, Palmer Luckey's Anduril company that just raised $500 million and using drones to protect borders plays right into this. And I did, raise the dystopian possibility of how underfinanced militaries, think Hezbollah, think ISIS, that are having battles on borders, would potentially use militarized drones in this fashion, which are hard to defend against, are they not? Because Israel remarkably has their Iron Dome project, which beyond impressive ability to shoot down rockets coming from Gaza, as we saw again recently in recent weeks. However, rockets move in very predictable patterns, and drones do not by design. And the Iron Dome would be useless against drones coming from Gaza or Jerusalem. And so maybe it's not a coincidence that we saw today Israel's announcement that they have lasers used to shoot down drones. Thoughts from the peanut gallery?
Amir's just joined us, by the way.
What a coincidence.
I
Welcome.
know, it's amazing.
No, I felt
Clubhouse is
you. I
amazing.
knew you would discuss Israel, Hezbollah, Iron Dome,
Yeah,
bronze.
Amir,
So
help us. I couldn't ask for a better person to join the conversation at this moment, honestly, because here's what's happening. We've been, as I hopefully you just heard what I said, but just to, you
I
can
did.
skip. You did. Okay, good. The idea that uh, uh, underfunded, operations like Hezbollah would, instead of using rockets, would use like little consumer drones with explosives, as was just used in Libya. In that case, they used C4 attached to a drone. And the idea that they could even integrate, they could be used with human operators, of course, as they are today. There are now autonomous drones. In the case of Libya, it was a fully autonomous drone that was programmed to attack. And we had Sal tell us that he's aware of instances of facial recognition systems being added to these drones to be able to have very specific targets. And this gets very concerning because these consumer drones, are now the prices are dropping to be a few $100s, which I am assuming, because I don't know what the price of a rocket is, but I assume that it would be cheaper to use these drones that are less targetable by the Iron Dome defense system, for example. And I'm wondering what goes through your mind when you hear stories like this. And also relevant to that is two headlines that came out recently. One, that Palmer Luckey's new company that is being used in the U.S. defense systems is using drones to police the borders. And then there was a headline that we saw in the previous session about 8 hours ago, Israel announcing the first use of a militarized laser, and in the article, they specifically said it would be used to shoot down drones. And is this a coincidence that this militarized drones and then this drone shooting laser is being announced, nearly simultaneously?
Yep, everything you said is happening, and more than that, I think that it's a daily reality in Israel now. In the latest operation in Gaza, there were so many incidents around that. The most famous one, by the way, is two drones that were launched to attack Israel, but using cyber and taking over the drones, it reversed and it killed the ones that sent it.
Oh,
So
wow. Was that reported?
it was reported. I don't know how highlighted, but look at it. It was launched, took control of. I don't think they explained the details, the cyber details of it, but
Sounds like a movie.
That's why autonomy is so important, in my opinion, because when people talk about this for law enforcement, they're worried about hacking, etc. So you kind of need to install like a core set of a guidance or rules, right? And the other example is that RQ-170 drone we had over Iran got hacked and brought down. I think that's why Israel's going with instead of jamming the radio or hacking, you can just hit it with a laser and destroy the drone, because it's not so large that a laser would just put a hole in it; it would actually destroy it.
Right. I think Israel is adopting a multi-layer strategy. You have to use one layer is intelligence. You have to hit it before it's launched. That's a major one, by the way. You're using a lot of sources of voice-related and movement-related. Another layer is the laser, as you mentioned, to be covered on few layers. Iron Dome is just a name for 3-4 different systems, each one for different height, different range. They have different systems, actually. And the cyber one, or taking control, or you can call it electronic fighting, and that element is another layer which you use in real time before there's any damage done, or in kind of a mid-risk level. So the whole issue of drones is a big issue, and they are getting smaller, and they will eventually be small enough to have not only the face recognition, it can even use smell, and it could hunt you in apartments, hunt you in tunnels. look for you, go back, recharge, look for you again for days, years, just until they find you, and then they blow up in the face. You know, everything is possible.
Good times.
Yeah.
I have a theory
Well,
regarding what they're going to use the laser for. I think they will use it to blind the. I don't think they. The thing is that you don't have a laser capabilities to actually shoot down things from the sky. That's properly Star Wars is not here yet. Sorry, Tyler. But the
No.
thing is here,
I can show you the video. The Death Star literally shot down. It blew up Tatooine. I saw it with my own eyes. Go ahead.
Oh my god, you just
the
lost your nerd
documentary.
card. It did not blow up Tatooine.
Which island? Which planet did they blow up? Let's see. Someone Google that shit. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Johan, but that's a really interesting idea. That's
the only thing they can do. The thing is that the energy you need to shoot down something in 1 kilometer is 10,000s of kilowatts. But blinding it, you can actually do that with a laser pointer that you nick from your school.
Right.
You know that is quite a big thing to actually point a laser towards a police helicopter or something like that, because it actually destroys the cameras on the helicopter as well as destroys the eyes of the pilots. And the thing is, it is very so. I guess it's not what they aim for, because they fire a laser and it will go blind. So they are flying on only GPS parameters, and then it's quite hard to actually hit a car or something else. Johan, done speaking.
Yeah, but Johan, it said in the article that they released that the intent was to shoot down drones. I know that it would take a whole lot of kilowatts of power to disarm a drone. Although maybe not if you just nick the propeller. These things are quite sensitive. If you just nick the propeller, it'll go down. But your point about blinding people is actually very legitimate, because in the Hong Kong protests, there was a whole lot of that going on, where one of the things that the protesters were doing is they were using green laser pointers that you can get at any $1 store, and to blind police officers and cameramen and all of that. And you could easily make a $10 version that could have far more longer term blinding effects, right?
So this is using joule heating. This actually heats the object so quickly that it incinerates it. They're saying that this company typically works in the blinding vision space of using lasers, but this time around, this actually uses joule heating to destroy or incinerate the object.
Hey, can I chime in here as a doctor on this one? Because all this talk about, like we just talked about Lucky's, I don't know, whatever, and all these power soldiers and military, and also all this, drone technology, all this vaporizing of people and everything else. Like, at what point are we going to stop investments in these kind of areas and sort of focus on, like, any one of these technologies can be sabotaged by, again, let's say a average BMI person sitting in a basement in some, rural community, right? Sitting with
Stop picking on their computer. Communities.
In mom's basement.
Okay, fine. Okay. But what if, like, all it takes is one of those individuals to basically hack into this and disrupt the whole system? Why are we wasting so much money?
Here's an argument. Here's one argument against it. And Florian, I'll concede to you, which is, as the technologies of these things improve, the actual number of casualties go down over time. They're more targeted. Yes, you have, rather than bombing a building, or in previous days in a town, it gets more and more and more precise. The target is actually this one bad actor, and now can use this little drone to take out that one bad actor, rather than the building, and then previously the town, or previously the country, because it was.
But what about the opportunity cost, though, right? Because we're actually wasting money on these devices when we could use the same technology to improve lives and build up people so that they don't have to be angry against everyone else.
Well, hey, Heyman, I can tell you what the argument is, though. What the argument is typically is that if we don't do it, somebody else will. And as you build that technology, you can build solutions to mitigate against them. That's usually, I'm not saying it's right, but that's typically what the argument is in that type of investment, sadly.
And that's how the US DoD works. So any innovations that come from Homeland Security or anywhere else, the the US DoD will work to leverage that for their own purposes. So
So
there's actually a laser that I don't know. I can't share my source, and I don't know where online you can look this up. But there are lasers that, if you direct it at a person, it can make them so sick they will want to die, and it'll
Active
do that
denial system.
instantaneously.
It's
Yeah,
called active denial system, ADS.
yeah. So that's a
And
system, and
Amir may
all
not
and all
admit
of
it.
that is
Sorry.
leveraged by DoD.
And Amir may not want to admit this, but Israel is very tactical, right? I mean, we know that. People don't talk about it, but Israel is very smart for a small country. They know how to target in a very economic way, and they actually go for the core stuff, right? Especially like if you think about all the technologies that have happened so far, like the nuclear power plant, right? They went through software. I'm sure there's some compromats that we don't even talk about involving Israel. Like those are like really espionage stuff that's really works. I'm just wondering like why we're investing openly in these crazy luckies shots in terms of like open massive projects. I'm
I'll
not
tell
sure.
you why right here.
Yeah.
So here's
I,
Palmer Luckey's tweet where he says, "We just raised $450 million for Anduril. It will be used to turn American and allied warfighters, meaning France, meaning NATO, into invincible technomancers who wield the power of autonomous systems to safely accomplish their missions. Our future roadmap is going to blow you away. Stay tuned." And
Wait for version 2 from China. The
yeah,
exact same copy of it.
right. But the point is, as I think it was Florina said, the Department of the DoD, the Pentagon, is the biggest funder of innovation on the planet. They're the largest R&D customer of things like what Palmer's working on. And so your question is, why are they funding it? And it's, well, they have a mandate to protect the U.S. Okay, so you would have to deconstruct that entire system, which, by the way, the U.S. Is where it is today because of its military strength. So you fundamentally have to reconstruct America from the ground up, literally from its initial premise. The reason America plays the role it does today is because we play the world's kind of military enforcing function. So that's why we invest way more heavily into military than any other country and most countries combined. So it would be very difficult to rewind that.
Not that I'm happy about that, by the way.
Yeah, we're not saying
But
that we
that
are
is
happy
true.
about it. But I'm just saying that talk about an uphill climb. You got your work cut out for you in that effort.
And Amir, I didn't attack you, by the way. I know you're chiming in shortly.
yes, sure. I just actually wanted to share with you something that in Israel is viewed from the positive side of military development. If you look back, the startups in Israel, almost all of them in the beginning came out of the military activity, but was used for civil applications. For me, one of the biggest projects I was involved was using technology of missiles, like the heads of the missiles, in order to minimize the size to a pill level. Then you swallow it, and it takes videos and of all whole process and analyze potential cancer. And even Checkpoint, which is today a defensive-related cyber, came from very aggressive, originally military ones. And you can see the crossover from the military to the civil application, improving quality of life. And the reason it's possible because you are funding something that for sure will lose money. There is no business logic at all. There is no business models of these kind of drones, for example, but they've been funded for the last 15, 20 years. But in 5 years from now, it will be everywhere, improving our life and saving lives everywhere. So the fact that the state is funding the R&D and then letting the people use the IP, there's no limitation on the IP from the
Well,
military.
the military is also big business. I mean, Eisenhower talked about the military
Industrial.
industrial complex. I mean, it creates millions of jobs, and it's one of our biggest exports, military hardware, software,
But that's
etc.
the
So don't
thing, though,
forget.
right? Like, if we could use that same amount of money to improve health and water and all these other crises, imagine that. I guess it's not nationalism, but I'm thinking also to Amir's point, like look at it. Like, I treat amputees, right? Well, one of the big sources of amputees, especially in the Veterans Affairs in the U.S., is what? Wars. And so, but they make, the DOD makes some of the best, under DARPA, they make some of the best prosthetics. Like those, the myoelectric prosthetics all come out of those research funds. But the sad part is they create the customers initially, right? So I'm just thinking, like, even the nuclear stuff, like all those PTSD stuff, I mean, we're creating customers. We're not, like, getting rid of them.
The money isn't in the cure, it's in the epidemic,
Yeah.
sadly.
Can I just bring this back to the drones, Tyler, or do you want to move
Yeah,
on?
go ahead.
Yep. Sorry.
I'll be super quick then. I was just putting myself on some sort of monitor list by doing a little bit of Googling around C4 specifically. And because we were talking about sort of the efficacy of drones and whatnot and how dangerous they could be, and the fact that a lot of these states are low finance. This sort of, they're going to do this as cheap as possible. So if you're going to go for like a DJI drone, you can pick up a 10-kilometer drone. So that's a drone that has built-in avoidance, a 10-kilometer range with built-in cameras, so you can fly it remotely. You can pick up one of them for under $1,000. That has a carrying capacity, like a nominal carrying capacity of about 400 grams, but it can go up to about 700 grams. Now, if you pack C4 on there, like 1 ounce or about 30 grams of C4 is more than enough to take out an individual. So you're thinking of the fact that you can pack about 400 grams of C4 onto one of these drones and fly it, potentially 10 kilometers away, go into a building, which, in an enclosed space increases the efficacy of an explosive.
Carl,
Massive.
I hope the NSA isn't doing keyword spotting on their tech tools around the
They
world now,
are.
because
Carl's got a short memory because we spent the whole last session 7 hours ago talking about how the intelligence communities are all up inside the clubhouse. Go ahead,
you
Carl.
just code red.
But so that just puts in, like, if you wanted to really do this properly, if you wanted to go for a 10-kilometer away target with enough C4, I mean, one stat here that really blew my mind is if you go up to about 1.5 pounds of C4, that can go through a 14-inch I-beam, which is rated to support multi-story buildings.
Too much research, Carl.
So yeah, but here's the clincher, is that if you don't care about doing 10 kilometers, if you only want to go a couple of 100 kilometers and you only want to put about 100 grams, maybe 50 grams of C4, you can pick one of these drones up from Amazon for $50. So that's the cost of this potential.
And you can plant
warfare.
trees with the same drone. So one day.
And disclaimer, guys, kids, do not try this at home. This is just a tech news discussion. Please do not tech. And Carl is an expert.
And think about
an expert fool.
Think about the economics of that, right? What would it take for a surgical strike from a cruise missile to hit its target inside of a building, right?
And these are all hypotheticals for whoever's
$250,000.
listening.
Yeah.
So, Carl, we can have some conversations because my husband actually designed real X-Wings drones with Disney in partnership with Boeing. He actually designed like full functioning X-Wings from Star Wars.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
For the Disney grand opening.
I worked for a period with drones and with rocket turbine and rocket powered model planes and stuff as well. So I would be well up for that. But anyway, moving on. Yeah, thanks, Tyler.
But you and him should connect because he has talked to me about, and his father used to be a VP at Homeland Security too. So he used to talk about like the potential terrible uses of drones. So this is a conversation that he'd be really interested in.
I am sensing a weaponized drones tech news around the world room coming up.
Can we end on a positive note? Drones are being used to deliver vaccines in Africa, and also agricultural assessments are being done with drones.
And planting trees.
And they're also awesome Star Wars X-Wings.
There you go.
And by the way, Disney just has this video of this realistic robot that I just tweeted. Go ahead and give this a look, everybody. This will make you forget all about drones and everything Carl just said. It's Disney's realistic and interactive robot gaze. You have to watch this video, and I promise you will forget all about drones attacking buildings after you watch this video. It's Disney is well. I'm speechless. It takes a lot.
Creepy.
It takes a lot for me to lose to become speechless, but this video absolutely does. So it's at TNATW is the Twitter account, and I just shared this Disney robot that is going to become incredibly important in the future, but in the meantime, it's likely to give you nightmares for the rest of your life. But yes, thank you for the interesting conversation about the
Yeah.
future of drones and
Just
the yeah.
a final comment about that. You know that Disney actually bought that droid capabilities from George Lucas. He presented it for the full audience 1977. The first name was C3PO. And it was a
C3PO.
human communication protocol droid.
Yep. Israel installs high-powered laser on civilian plane. Oh, Chris, you want to touch on this one? It says
Ground control. Yep, I'm here.
yeah. You're ground controlling yourself. Israel installs high-powered laser on civilian plane for intercepting rockets. Israel has successfully tested an airborne laser that can shoot down drones in a breakthrough that could complement the defense systems which intercept thousands of rockets fired from the Gaza Strip last month. And so now they've added a laser that can shoot down drones. Well, why would they be worried about that? As we've been discussing here the past few days about how drones can now be used in the way that Carl just explained. And now you know why Israel's working on lasers, because that's going to become incredibly useful in the very near future in a very concerning way. But not only there, it's going to be very concerning in very many places indeed. There's a whole bunch of other interesting articles floating around right now, and my apologies for not remembering who sent these in. You can jump in and take credit for these. Visa and PayPal we mentioned are doing that $30 million blockchain capital fund, and then Renjant chimed in with a related article about the fact that Visa is also in a headline from yesterday saying that they're going to be offering cross-border payments in India using a blockchain. So now we, as he correctly suggests, Visa claims to use a quicker new blockchain ledger technology to provide faster transactions for international. In India, Visa will compete with fintech payments like TransferWise and Western Union and all of these remittance companies using blockchain, which really lowers the fees tremendously. And that indeed is probably related to their large investment in this blockchain fund. Very interesting. And thank you, Renjit, for yet another really interesting connection. Speaking of big investments, this one from Faraz, that the UAE's sovereign wealth fund called the Mubadala, and they own a chip foundry to set up a $4 billion plant in Singapore, which is also being invested in by US-based global foundries. Our new facility in Singapore will support fast-growing end markets and innovations and 5G mobility and secure device segments with long-term customer agreements already in place. So the rest of the world, anyone that can, and by the way, it was announced that India is also working on 5G technologies now yesterday, and apparently the Middle East is working together with American global foundries to build something, a fabrication in Singapore. Very interesting indeed. Europe's first billion-dollar edtech startup is a tutoring site backed by SoftBank and Tencent. SoftBank being from Japan, Tencent being from China, both very interested in the future of education and giving birth to Europe's first unicorn edtech. Vienna-based Go Student said it raised fresh funds from the likes of SoftBank and Tencent in a round valuing the company at about $1.67 billion. It means Go Student is Europe's first fintech unicorn. EdTech companies boomed during the coronavirus pandemic as lockdown restrictions pushed 1.5 billion children around the world into remote learning, and that's exactly right. And I SoftBank, as usual, I think is ahead of the curve on this, and Tencent as usual as well. And that this is indeed the future, is remote education, because as we had a friend on stage did an interview lately from Sana Labs, which is AI learning, which they claim to have data that shows that you can learn twice as fast with 3 times the retention by using very intelligent AI driven models where they know what you know as you learned it. So they know the perfect thing to show you at the right time based on what you already know. And better than any human can, better than a human teacher can. And it becomes a little bit gamified. And I think that is the future of learning, where everyone's going to learn at their own pace, kind of like playing video games in a really optimized way. And of course, you're going to need the human element as well. Yeah. But you got these Disney robots now that kind of look like humans from Silence of the Lambs, but crazy, scary humans nonetheless. If you saw the video.
I have a
Silence
question.
of the
So are
Lamb.
people supposed to learn at home? Is that what they're saying? The kids are going to learn at home?
Well, wherever they take their device with them or their VR goggles. Because, by the way, once you get into the VR learning environment, which Mark Zuckerberg himself highlighted in his recent speech at VivaTech a few days ago, he said, imagine learning, how to dance, the tango from an inside of VR from a tango dance teacher, which is a truly brilliant use case.
Yeah, it is, but I think it's just going to drive the disparities. And I think Heyman's been in my accessibility sessions with tech.
Yep.
A lot of people, especially in the US, like the First Nations, they don't even have the proper infrastructure to even run stuff like this.
Right.
They don't even have proper internet services. So
You're,
this won't
you're
be successful
You're
unless we invest
talking
in
to somebody
infrastructure.
who taught in America's most unprivileged schools in all of America.
Exactly.
And I taught in the computer
Exactly.
courses at Downey High School, which didn't even have, it was a computer class with computers that didn't work and no internet connection. So I'm very
Exactly. We
familiar
need
with
to
your
focus
point.
on inclusion more as
Yeah.
we do this stuff.
Yeah.
So I know.
Yep, I'm well aware from personal experience myself. So GameStop jumps, and what we might be able to connect that former point to this point with GameStop jumping after raising $1.1 billion in a stock sale program is announced today from Bloomberg. The video game retailer sold 5 million shares, and shares gained as much as 13% in the biggest jumps in 2 weeks. And indeed, their stock chart looks downright healthy, starting to look normal and healthy again. It's truly wild to see this company bouncing back. But we happened to break some really interesting stuff here, thanks to Ame, who showed us their kind of Easter egg hidden upcoming innovations around NFT games, where they're going to start making games again, launching them through NFTs in a way that it seems very investable, I must say. It makes me, I would never want to short the stock after seeing that Easter egg glimpse of what they are working on. And they were trying to recruit NFT game developers. Truly cutting edge stuff. Very, very impressive indeed. On the flip side, one chart that's not looking good at all is Dogecoin down 23% in the past 24 hours. Is taking an absolute dog shit, this
Good.
Dogecoin. Yeah. And Bitcoin itself now falling to 30,000. Actually, it was just down to 29,000, coming out of a technical trading head and shoulders pattern and breaking down, which is a very bad sign for Bitcoin from a technical trading chart trading perspective. That does not look good, folks. That looks like it's going to continue down in a bad way, and being driven by kind of fundamentals, as traders call it, because China cracking down on the mining and those miners relocating, and things don't look good in the short term for Bitcoin, unless somebody knows something that we don't. Anywho, other interesting news that people are sharing on the interwebs, there's an interview with Mark Andreessen, who is truly one of the most respected minds in all of tech, and for very good reasons. He's got the receipts to prove it, having been the creator of the web browser, and one of the biggest investors in tech generally, including Clubhouse. He is, Andreessen Horowitz is the biggest investor in Clubhouse by a very wide margin. And so in this interview that was just posted, they asked him about Clubhouse and Substack, because both of these are kind of the new forms of media, which are sort of challenging traditional media, very specifically tech media, which Mark Andreessen is not a huge fan of. And so in the question is, recently you invested in at least two companies, Clubhouse and Substack, that are part of a new wave of media. Why now? What's lacking in the old social media of Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and how might the new networks improve on that? And he goes on to say that he says the following: Clubhouse is the Aegean Agora come to life globally. I mean that seriously. Clubhouse is the first venue for people anywhere in the world to come together in groups to talk, not metaphorically, but literally, about any topic they can imagine. It's so striking that in our primarily textual, technological world, people are instantly enthusiastic about the opportunity to participate in oral culture online. There is something timeless about talking in groups, whether it's around a campfire 5,000 years ago or in an app today. And then about Substack, he says Substack is the business model for intellectual creativity that's been missing on the internet for 30 years. I'm so excited about this. Substack isn't a new form of communication. In fact, it's the original form of internet communication, the written essay, the news group posting, the group email, the blog post. But until now, you could never get paid for writing online. And now all of a sudden you can. I think it's hard to imagine how transformational this is going to be. Substack is causing enormous amounts of new quality writing to come into existence that would never have existed otherwise, raising the level of idea formation and discourse in a world that badly needs it. So much of legacy media, due to the technological limitations of distribution technologies like newspapers and television, makes you stupid. Substack is the profit engine for stuff that makes you smart. Some strong words for traditional media and his friends at the traditional media publications. Which, as I said, he's
It would have been
big.
nice. It
Yeah.
would have been nice for him to do a shout out, Tyler. I mean, come on, he should have mentioned tech news around the world.
Yeah, well,
but it's so true. We're so in advance regarding the news. Like we're many times 2 or 3 weeks in advance.
Yeah, we're started. Well, that's what's interesting. Now that we've done this for a few months, and the patterns are starting to become more clear. And the pattern is we cover things, we start connecting dots that then start bubbling up into the mainstream media. It seems like in some cases a few days later. That happens often. And in other cases, it's a few weeks later. That also happens. And here's one that is a couple days later. Perfect example. The battle for your wrist, all about the battle of Apple smartwatch versus the new Facebook smartwatch, and how these watches will play with your VR. And when Facebook announced their watch, all the tech journalists talked about Facebook has a new watch, and we went 5 steps further by saying, this is going to connect with their Oculus device, which was not mentioned, and no tech journalist mentioned in any of these articles generally. And we said, it's got a camera. It's going to be used to track all of the data to power their ad network, which no tech journalist mentioned. And now, a week later, they are starting to realize, here's what's really going on. And so it's another one of those examples. So I will tweet this out from Axios. And well done, Scott Rosenberg from Axios, for figuring out what we figured out 30 minutes after Facebook announced their smartwatch. Yes, it's going to be used to pull all of your juicy data and power their Oculus for their virtual hand gestures and all of these things. Yes, you're right, Scott. It just only took you a week longer than it took us. That's all. So that's how it plays out. I just tweeted that out so that you can see it. Other interesting headlines. I'll pause because there's an endless flow on my side, and I want to see if to give a chance for some other voices. Amanda, what's up?
So, did we get to cover, and I apologize if we did, the Peloton's doing basically a corporate program similar to how, at companies they provide gym memberships as a perk for working for the company. So Peloton released today, they're going to do corporate partnerships with different companies that you would get a Peloton subscription as a perk at your job.
I like it. That's clever. That's good business development. That is...
especially since, a proportion of employees are going to be working from home, right?
Yeah.
And so the corporate gym in the physical space is not as much as the perk, but this is an interesting option. That's
Wonder
very
if
good.
they'll offer, sorry Cal to cut you off, wonder if they'll offer at some point any discounts on Peloton as well. Curious, who knows?
It's but that's a really clever way to tap into other way, because Pelotons aren't cheap, and it's not cheap for consumers to buy, and you got to expand the market and open up a whole new market segment, which is these big companies that have an interest in the health of their employees, who will essentially have big budgets and will buy these devices for their employees. And so it's a really clever way to sell to people who have money and expand your market. And kind of a win-win. It could be very cool. The question is who controls that data of Peloton, and which tech data company will acquire Peloton to tap into all of that juicy data they no doubt are.
Even if they don't, Tyler, think about it. Which companies are more than likely to offer that solution as a partnership? It'll be some of the big tech players that are probably giving them wearables, and so are able to track them as base use cases when they're on that Peloton exercising, and able to get that juicy data, as you say. So,
what if
by
an
the way,
insurance company bought it, like a medical insurance company invested in that, offering it as like an additional incentive for businesses? Just a thought.
It's, I think, one of the traditional big data companies who want to get into health and or health insurance. It's going to be such a tremendously huge space. And I imagine that Peloton can be made for much less than they are making it for and selling it for. And once a proper data, Peloton isn't, this is the interesting point that bears repeating. And this is a really good example. Peloton starts out as a hardware company, makes an interesting piece of hardware. They weren't necessarily built as a data company like Google is, or, these big tech companies are data companies, right? And can do amazing things with data, especially once they have an ad network. And oh boy, could Peloton certainly start to have an ad network in between, a lot of the content, and a lot of that data could be very useful and very monetizable, which could drive down the initial price to have such a device. It's going to be really interesting to see. But it is another way to get a critical foothold into the health thing. And
to Faraz's point, I see two companies: Apple, obviously, and as partners, and also Netflix, which might sound odd, but it is they're in the home.
Yeah, but hang on, because Amazon is both. It's also a content company with their Amazon Prime, because they've got all.
That's true. Yeah. Amazon's another. Yeah. So Faraz is dead on here. There'll be a partnership with one of those.
You also got Google with Facebook, Google with YouTube, because Google with the data, Google going into health, Google's got the video platform as well. It's interesting.
It's just not. It's whether they want to give data or not. You could have the laziest employee sitting around wearing an Apple Watch on a couch watching TV all day or not even working. But if they have that Apple Watch on and that Peloton sitting there, and their wife's telling them get on that Peloton, and or their husband's telling them get on that Peloton.
Stop talking about me, Faraz. I really resent you talking about my personal situation.
Yeah,
all of a sudden they decide to get on that Peloton. They get that juicy data. It's just another push towards that data.
Yeah,
so
I can see healthcare and medical device companies being interested. Companies with deep pockets like J&J.
Mm-hmm.
Here, I can tell you something that we did real fast before you move on. So where I was working and this is at the county government side, I had a project where I installed treadmills in different areas of the county campus, where the treadmills actually integrated with with your laptop. So you just dock your laptop, and when the screen comes up, it's your desktop. And there were keyboards, so you can actually walk and do your work. So, you can go in there, you reserve the time, and you walk. That's one of the things that they offered employees as an option. So it wouldn't be too far-fetched to set up a treadmill or Peloton habit where your laptop can just, be a screen, or have the Peloton be a screen.
Place.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's possible.
I can charge a battery.
So Evan just shared an interesting one about a space balloon and a 3D printed house. You want to talk about the space balloon? Because the 3D printed house you can all see from the Twitter account.
Is this a Disney movie or something?
Which
balloons
one?
And a house?
Yep.
I love it. But yeah, no, I mean, space tourism seems to be the killer application. Hopefully no one dies. But, you've got the space balloon, you've got Virgin Galactic taking people into space. I mean, rich people want to be in space. They want to be masters of all of their whole domain, right? I mean, that's the whole big idea with sending people to space these days.
So this balloon, as we just retweeted, thanks to Evan, is a space tourism company called Space Perspective, successfully conducted the first flight test of its prototype stratospheric passenger balloon, reaching an altitude of over 100,000 feet on Friday, June 18th. Just a few days ago, the balloon prototype called Neptune 1 lifted off from the Space Coast Regional Airport near Kennedy Space Center, Florida, before splashing down about 7 hours later in the Gulf of Mexico. The first test kicks off an extensive test campaign to access Neptune 1's feasibility as a passenger balloon for space tourists. Here's the quote. This test flight of Neptune 1 kicks off our extensive test flight campaign, which will be extremely robust because we can perform tests without a pilot, making Spaceship Neptune an extremely safe way to go to space, co-CEO and founder Taber McCollum said in a press release. And there's photos.
Get ready for the Disney sponsorship, Disney Space Balloon.
Yeah. What is the cost of this thing is the question. However, the tickets for the likes of Virgin Galactic expected to be $250,000 range. Now that's price prohibitive. If you think VRs are a little exclusionary, space travel is particularly exclusionary. Space Perspective joins the likes of Barcelona-based 02 Infinity in testing stratospheric balloons as a cheaper and safer method for travel for space tourists. 02 Infinity has stated that a ride in its balloon will cost approximately half of Virgin Galactic at $130,000, and Space Perspectives aims to go even cheaper, going for that real budget traveler for just $125,000, undercutting them by $5,000. Because I don't know that people who are paying $130,000 are worried about saving $5,000 on their space balloon travels. But anyway, there you go. Get a little discount, and you will be seeing it on your the next time you book your flights. You can book a flight to space for $125,000.
But helium is a rare commodity now.
I don't know. Does it say what they're using in the balloon?
No, I was trying to figure it out. But
probably hydrogen.
Heidenberg.
So, there's Heyman. Well, by the way, Evan also sent in this 3D printed house, of which that is certainly not the first, although this is claiming to be one of Germany's first 3D printed residential buildings. It's a 2-story house, 3D printed.
Pretty nice.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous design, 4,000 square feet. It's done. It's real. This is not some imagination thing. And you can see the photos, very large photos. Very beautiful house, I must say. Rounded corners.
Just don't try to get Wi-Fi through the concrete walls. But otherwise, it's a great house.
It looks gorgeous, actually, and definitely an interesting conversation point. But you got to look at it from the Tech News Twitter account at TNATW. After 100 hours of 3D printing, the structure is only 5 weeks away from opening its doors. Super cool, I got to say, and really beautiful. Heyman, you want to cover this meteor hunting drone headline? Mr. Heyman.
Oh, hello. Sorry. No, I just wanted to balance out our previous drone footage and drone discussion. And there was this asteroid hunting drone technology.
Hold on.
Meteorites.
Meteorites.
Meteorites. Yes, absolutely. Asteroids bypass us. Meteorites hit us. No, yeah. So it's basically a technology. So I was thinking like more of this technology can be used for good as well, like in terms of ag tech and figuring out where the spots of land.
And I would agree, Heyman. I think drones are mostly being used for good. There was some study with a local police department, like 70% of the lost missing children now are found through drones at a lot of municipalities. So, search and rescue, shark hunting drones off the coast of Australia. So many great use cases.
Yeah.
So this was meteorites.
Hi.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, right, Fiona.
Hi, everybody. So yes, we're part of the strategy for Rainforest X Prize is using our team got in, by the way, our team of Indigenous collaborating women and scientists around the world. So we have Act Now, Rainforest Labs working on the rainforest competition. So part of the area is that we can use drones for a certain amount, but we need to collect other data. We need also the soil data. We need the specimens and the biodiversity data. And then it's the data analysis that's the most challenging, is what are you doing with all this data? And then coming back out of that is that you also have to be able to use the data for something that hopefully is ethically good. But coming back to drones, I know, for example, several other teams had joined the competition. And they will find, I'm not predicting, but I'm just understanding that, a certain large aeronautics group that makes military drones for X, Y, and Z might have difficulty coming and testing over the rainforest in Brazil. Or we don't know, that they haven't given us the defined location, but there are so many different political rules about who can fly, where they can fly, and why they can fly. So, there's going to be a big challenge. As we went further on that, it's from the AI of the drones, we're using small mini like robotics that are going to roll in and do a soil testing, and then using auditory testing, which is the rainforest audio moth, which is a open source data collected and software, but it also can then tap and take that and landscape or mindscape or audioscape the biodiversity. Like in 3 minutes, you can know the 300 different species of bats, which one might be pregnant, which one's got little kids, where they are, and then you can pull out and use it and with something like a Versus.io and 3D map the whole canopy rainforest that you're looking at, that specific area. But I'm coming back to the drones. It's like, what is the use of them if it also scares the bats, or if it causes challenges? And also the drones, they can't go through, even with all the LiDAR and the different blue and green using these drones for nightscapes. But, where and how can we get this to all do something positive for the planet? We do use them for land entitling, which is really great in Africa. We're able to do a title of a land by scanning over and obviously matching up all the data, the satellite, and looking at the local ledger records. So there's some great positive things happening. Thank you. This is Fiona Bannister at decarbonize.org.
And to add to Fiona's, and congratulations on the X Prize entry. To add, I'm just wondering, Amir, you mentioned about the sort of the underground tunnels that could be done with certain drone technologies, right? Scanning. So
It's a futuristic scenario. It's not something in place, but eventually the drones will be small enough to enter the tunnels. And the key point is how to keep energy. And if we can solve batteries issues, it always has a huge market, including military, naturally.
Yeah, and this headline that you
speaking about.
Hold on one second.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. The Heyman, the article that you have about the meteorite hunting drones, which is flying all over the place looking for this very particular type of rock, highlights, as it says, it's from University of California, Davis. Then it's a NASA-funded study, flew a camera-equipped drone over Dry Lake Beta, Nevada. And it's not so different from the very dystopian picture that our friend Amir was highlighting, which it can, if it could be, instead of looking for rocks, looking for a particular person, use its battery. It might, these things normally have a 15-minute battery life and then fly back. And they can, as Carl said, go now about 10 kilometers on the 5 gigahertz kind of dual band systems that DJI has, and just continually recharge itself in search of whatever it's programmed to search for, whether that be a face or a meteorite or whatever. And they continue to get smaller and smaller, and it's only a matter of time before we get a headline that we're all gonna gasp and say, "Yep, remember back in July, mid-July when we said this would happen? Well, here it is." The question is, how far away is that very dystopian headline? I would wager it's less than 2 months away.
Speaking about batteries, Tyler, can I
Yeah,
say something about
sure.
batteries?
Yeah.
There is some major news today from Mercedes Daimler. They made made the investment to Farasis, Chinese company, for 100 million on evaluation of 13.3 billion because of the batteries. And they found out those batteries are basically useless, catastrophic. So there are 400 upon testing. There is today news. So basically, everybody, all the electrical vehicle automakers, they are trying to make desperately to deals with the battery producers to produce their vehicles. So now they realize they need to make joint ventures, like Volvo made last week joint venture with Northvolt. Another joint venture, Porsche made a joint venture with the custom cells. But guess which company is only electrical vehicle maker which has the battery? That's Tesla.
Tesla. Yes, well,
So
that's
it's
not a
like
it's
it
not a surprise at
is.
all. In fact, they don't think of themselves as a car manufacturer. They think of themselves as a battery company that puts shells of different types of vehicles on top of their batteries, and that's why they were able to truly innovate in a space that had been so encumbered with kind of what's the word you use, Cal? Kind of calcified knowledge of a sort, where the Germans are the best example of all because
The orthodoxy, the fundamental,
exactly
yeah.
the kind of
Yes,
lethargic orthodoxy where the
it's
Germans were run by the combustion engine teams, which prevented them politically from even trying electric vehicles until Tesla
yeah, it's
showed that that's what the consumers wanted, and they really didn't have it. They either literally had to die or have their star player and their political powerhouse sit on the bench while they reinvented the car themselves. But
yeah.
Innovator
So
die.
it's like hamburger. Everybody is establishing hamburger, but nobody has the meat. Only Tesla.
well,
Tesla
yes,
controls the meat.
correct. And to that point, even when Germany realized that they needed to make EVs, they didn't know a single anything about batteries whatsoever, which is why they had to partner with Peter, who left Tesla as the chief product officer and head of supply chain, to go make the gigafactories in Europe because he knew how to make gigafactories and batteries to give to the Germans because they didn't know how to do it themselves.
Yes, exactly. So they made last week, the Peter made last week the deal with Volvo.
Yep.
So they are turning to joint venture. But I'm saying even those joint ventures, like the Daimler case, it's catastrophic because they invested 400 million and they found out those batteries, upon delivering of those batteries, they found out that those batteries are useless because they are not suitable for the electrical vehicle. They are not tier one producer of the batteries. So
Which
it's
who?
also about quality of the batteries.
Yeah, who made the insufficient batteries?
A company called Farasis, the evaluation was for $13.3 billion,
Ouch.
for 400 million investment from Daimler.
Where are they based?
And those they're based in China.
Ah,
Was this a solid state battery company?
No. Solid
lithium.
state is lithium-ion batteries. Solid state is not yet a technology which is commercialized. Solid state, forget about solid state. Solid state may be never commercialized.
And so what?
So
The valuation drops to what now?
I don't know valuation because they need to cancel the deal. Means 400 million investment from the Daimler is going puff, and they cannot use those batteries, so they need to create another joint venture with somebody else.
It's
But there is
wild.
nobody else available.
Due
Northvolt.
diligence, guys, due diligence. You should expect Daimler to do good due diligence. It's kind
And
of basic.
by the way, one of Amir's big bio points is his business dealings in China. So you have a comment on this, Amir? You're right. That your comment is do your due diligence, especially in doing business with China. No.
Yeah, I think it's a due diligence issue. Maybe they took a risk, and maybe the headline doesn't reflect exactly the reality because a lot of research was done and will be used in Germany or in other places based on the know-how accumulated. While they were investing, they knew the risk is there. So the reality is sometimes different than the news, right?
Oh yeah.
But in
We
any
we see
case, when
we
you,
see
you
that
put
daily.
some, so I think that you need to dig into it. But in general, when you put something like this, Daimler lost 400 million, immediately you should think, where were due diligence? Because you don't invest such amount of money from a company that is deep in the space without knowing exactly the risk. If it's done, if this happened, it's a big question mark, and then it comes the issue of corruption and what was the consideration, who got paid for what, but you never know. You have to check the details.
Yeah, that's
But
a great point.
more important than 400 million lost, it's battery. They cannot produce the electrical vehicles because they don't have batteries.
Ah, right. It slows down their whole engine, essentially. That's an interesting point.
But don't you think this won't last? Like Tesla's lead on the batteries won't last? I think that's where they're going to software more, right?
Yeah, they are going to software, but software needs to be put to some electrical vehicle. So basically, without a vehicle, you don't need use software. This vehicle needs to be electric, so it needs to be powered by battery.
So I have a
And
connection
it's
here.
the efficient use of the batteries too, right?
Yeah.
Which is software, so it's kind of integrated. And so it's like Apple; they've integrated the two. That's the critical thing that they've done.
And the thing is that they're not using new battery technology. They're using, well proven cells. I worked on the prototype Tesla battery packs as a CNC manufacturer in 2009, I believe. The Facebook memory just came up yesterday or a couple days ago. And I was asking myself, like, what's wrong with these guys? Why are they taking these crappy, e-cigarette batteries and putting them into like these arrays of 12 units at a time? So what you need is you need high voltage and you need high current. And what happens is they take a lot of these e-cigarette batteries and basically create little arrays with them. And so I was part of the manufacturing of the prototypes. Michael Bell at Tesla was one of the guys, and he's who taught me about Kimball Musk and Solar City's ambitions. So this is not new technology. They're doing what a lot of good companies do. They take stable technology and extract as much as they can at it, and then incrementally push the technology forward because they realize their main goal is to get cars on the road for people to drive them, right? And they realize they have to have their finger on the pulse of batteries, but in order to commercialize quickly, they had to go with a very old technology, but use it in a new way. So I don't know what they're using now. I still believe they're using the lithium ion batteries, 3.6 volt type. I think now they're using 12 volt in the plaid version, but it's not like this new technology like these other companies are investing in, where it's solid state or gels or other types. So just my 2 cents there. Sorry.
But they are working on new structures, though, aren't they? I think last year they were
Yeah.
talking about the new structures that they were developing that were they were much, much sort of girthier, if I can slip the
Multiple
word
cathodes
girthier.
too, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean the battery is very tricky electrochemical machine in the small space. So we have the battery for 220 years, and this technology is still not very advanced. So basically, they're using the important part in the battery is reliability of the battery, quality of the battery, reliability of the battery. So you are right that only one technology which is this decade dominant technology is lithium-ion battery, and lithium-ion battery is the 50 years old technology commercialized 30 years ago. So I don't see like the 2030 the at least 95% of the batteries will be lithium-ion batteries. That's the best case scenario if the solid state or some other new technologies will break through. If not, 99% of the batteries will be lithium-ion batteries.
Milos, am I right in saying that even Goodenough, who was the one of the creators, the original lithium ion, has been working the rest of his life? Basically, he's still working, and he's in his 70s, 80s now, trying
No,
to
he's
make a better battery, and he's still working on it, and it's still
yeah.
nowhere near commercial viability. And he
I
created
have
the first.
Carl. One correction. He's 98. He's
Christ
98,
Almighty!
Exactly.
and all his life he's working on lithium-ion batteries, and he's got way where to go. He's still working. 98. 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago, first time he received Nobel Prize for the lithium-ion batteries.
Yes, yeah.
So a Nobel Prize he received like 96 years old. Whole his life he's working on lithium-ion batteries.
And I
There's a
think you
very
don't need the big batteries like Tesla uses, right? Like most of the cars that are coming out will be for short, the last mile sort of commutes. So you don't need that much battery power. I think that's what people are forgetting. Like you could get away with small batteries, and that's why I think GM, who, I mean, they had the technology. I'm sure a lot of these car companies have books full of their research that they could easily dust up and start up again.
So one quick
No,
comment, and I
no,
think
No?
Hyman,
no,
you
no,
are
go ahead.
wrong.
Okay.
You are wrong. It's the battery technology, and it's not only battery technology. It's not easy. So all those automakers they are relying on the battery suppliers, but the battery suppliers, these technologies, these lithium-ion batteries are so-called. I call it first generation lithium-ion batteries. For 30 years, just better and better each year, and
No, I'm
better
not
and
saying that battery technology. I'm talking about the size of the batteries. Like Tesla
yeah.
is going faster and faster. Like they're trying bigger and bigger batteries for distance. So I'm thinking like most often, most people don't drive their cars that far. So I think they're going to lose a battle in terms of the electrical car.
Let Milos finish his
Yeah, sorry about
point
that.
1 second. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, because he was just
Yeah,
making his
yeah,
argument. Just
I
yeah.
will. Yeah, yeah. So I'm saying that the Tesla has now second generation lithium-ion battery, which is much better, much cheaper, and a much bigger scale production. On top of that, that they made agreement with the first generation lithium-ion batteries, tier one batteries. So basically, they are buying all of what is available, and the rest is available to some other automakers, which is not a lot. So to address your question, is not only lithium, not only battery, it's a whole powertrain. So it goes how many miles you can get per kilowatt hour of the battery consumption. So basically, Tesla is leader in this space. Right now, they released the new car, which is they are using smaller and smaller battery for the bigger and bigger range. So there is nobody catching them up. Even like the Tesla is leading with their technology like 5 to 10 years before everybody.
Milos, can I ask you a question?
Yes, go ahead.
My argument that when anybody's sort of talking to me and betting against Tesla, my response is the reason why they're so far ahead in a lot of it is because they're rapidly approaching a point where they control everything in the chain. They're relying less and less and less on external providers. So you look at the AI, for instance. The reason why they're doing so well is that they're starting to do their own chips internally, their own camera system internally. That the whole chain is theirs, and that's the same when it comes to the battery technology and the drivetrain. And if you control everything from end to end, you know the whole system, you know how to operate the charging and discharging of the batteries in relation to your specific drivetrain, or even each drivetrain in each car. You can customize it perfectly. So is there any other manufacturer that you know of who is any way comparable to the level of in-house customization and development as Tesla, if that makes sense?
Nobody.
I would say
So
the
Tesla,
closest thing is Dyson, but they're just totally different
no,
avenues, right?
no. Dyson abandoned this project because
No, I know. I'm
Dyson,
just saying the only one with this type of vertical integration, not the level of success of penetration, but anyone that actually makes their own stuff, so to speak.
I
Everyone
will
really
have to
goes
say
through the
Apple.
OEM world, right?
I will have to say Apple.
no
Yeah,
Have a
well,
Apple.
look at
Apple uses Foxconn as an OEM though. That's the thing,
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
They
but
design, but they have someone else manufacture.
but they are
Tesla's
going on this way.
full vertical.
Can
I mean,
I hear Milos's response?
Yeah, so there is nobody, uh, especially nobody who is going to the battery is the key, you know. So because today electrical vehicle is battery and computer on the wheel. So battery is the key, and like I said, Tesla is producing this. Is commercializing now second generation lithium-ion battery, which is much cheaper, much better quality, and much bigger scale of the production of those batteries. So because we need 100 times more batteries than we need in 10 years than we produced last year. So 200 gigawatt hours of the batteries we produced last year, we need 20,000 gigawatt hours in 2030. So you need to scale up this production, what it is today, to the huge scale. So only Tesla has this technology. How the other automakers can compete with the Tesla if their cost of the battery is like $137 per kilowatt hour, and Tesla's cost will be like $60 per kilowatt hour. So they can basically not compete in the battery because then their car is more expensive, and it's not so good. Like you see in the case of the Daimler today. So then they can produce like 50,000 cars, 10,000 cars, but not millions of the cars. So that's how the Tesla is leading in the battery space. Like I would say, 5, 10 years before everybody.
Milos, can I just say, when I hear about the story of the battery, it comes back to early stage A123 batteries out of China, and then it went through to Lithium Works, and then Lithium Works was converged with some of those old IP from the Chinese Dragons sort of patent problem. And then they finally moved Lithium Works and merged it into China back again. But on the other side is Peter over there, Northvolt, and he's come up and obviously making some of the most advanced batteries out of Northvolt, out of Sweden. So where do you think, and he's technically, I'm going to say, says he's more ethically mining the lithium. I'm still up for not being the environmental judge on that, but the North Sea is very important for us to protect, and going up and fracking like the maps that are being fracked also off the coast of Maui and down off of Hawaii there, that are showing where we're getting our precious metals extraction for these batteries. So can you, Milos, give us a little scope on, where do you think Northvolt might be in this? And by the way, Peter used to work for Elon. So just bring us up to date on sort of like the strategy on global batteries that are not China made. Thank you.
Okay, so 5 years ago we had first gigaplant. So-called gigaplant means producing the Tesla's Nevada, Panasonic in Nevada, and now we have 215 of them in the pipeline. So producing in much bigger scale batteries than 10 years ago. So basically, those big giga plants, there are 15 of them in the pipeline all over the world. Most of them, they are in China, and Europe is building many of them, like the second after the China, and the United States is in the third place. So Northvolt is one of them. Northvolt is not producing battery yet, but the Northvolt is already close to production of the batteries. They will start to produce next year or in the end of this year. So Northvolt is building the battery cell production. It's one of the major, but one of the first pure European battery producer, battery cell producer, but Northvolt needs to buy materials for their batteries. So basically, Northvolt is not mining, not processing materials. The Northvolt is buying materials for their productions of the cells. Northvolt announced last week that they will build their second plant with Volvo, and they are building also the plant with Volkswagen, which now recently Volkswagen took it over. So basically, it will be just built by Northvolt, but it will be operated by Volkswagen. So Northvolt is one of the most progressive company in Europe, but it's not in production yet.
Thank you.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, just to loop that up. Here's a big question. So why and how do we get
these affordable, more, we're focused on so many different places. And I know because of some of the deal flow that we've got specific new motors being made in Mexico for the electric car conversion of some of the taxis, for example, in Mexico City. Not some, lots of them. But where do we feel that, there is not much in Africa in the production, nor into Latin America. So I'm always wondering why the strategy has been limited for putting production of manufacturing in those locations, because they're second and third very important markets. And so that's Fiona. Thank you from Decarbonized.
But the question is to production of what? Battery cells? What is your question?
Well, it's both battery cells, but also the cars. I mean, it's so fascinating because, I know this one deal that's going in with the, I'm under an NDA, so I'm dancing around it, in Mexico. I mean, let's just put it, Carlos Slim's testing some of this for himself. He needs to have, he wants to also be not go to the Mars yet, but he's wondering where, at a part of his team, where is his technology and how can he hold his market play in the Latin Americas? So that's more a question. Thank you.
One example, Ford is producing their electrical vehicle in Mexico.
Hey, Cal?
Yeah, I'm here.
I'm looking for my friend Tommy Palm in the audience, and I'm having
I'll look for him.
And if you can hear me and you raise
What's
your
his second
hand.
name?
Palm,
Second name?
Palm, like the palm of your hand.
I'll look for him. Yeah, I'll look.
By the way, one of the other advantages of Tesla is their efficiency. So the cars, the same Model S they made in 2012 goes essentially 100 miles more than the current one. In fact, the Plaid Model S that just came out, supposedly the battery is actually a little smaller than last year's, but it goes farther, and they use that extra space for better battery cooling. So that's kind of amazing. You get basically 25% more.
It's a
more
12 volt, right? It's like 12 volts versus the 3.6 or whatever.
So
I'm talking about the main battery pack.
I'm promising you all now that on this point of Northvolt, I will bring in Peter, who many people on stage knows, including Tommy, who just joined us on stage, know that Peter's a dear friend of mine, and I will bring him in to talk all about Northvolt and all the exciting stuff that they're doing. And Tommy himself is a very notable figure in Scandinavia and in the gaming world. Having come from King as a key instigator of Candy Crush, and in fact his daughter's named Saga, and now doing Resolution Games, which is a real pioneer in the VR game space, which I still am still shaking from my very first VR game experience in his studios when he was just starting it out, and it if you've not had the experience to do it, there's a before and after once you've had this experience. And but Tommy's making incredible progress with Resolution Games, which itself is one of the big headlines yesterday and again today, as there was headlines about the VR space is going to have its first ad, and Facebook was making some announcements that there's a new ad, and it turns out when I was reading that headline that it was part of a game company in Sweden called Resolution Games. I said, wait a minute, I know the founder and CEO of that company very well. So I will ping him and see what this is all about. And then there was other headlines later that now they're not going to have that, and they might test it as part of their other games. And what this whole experiment is all about is, tech journalists often get things fundamentally wrong. And the beauty of tech news around the world is we're able to go to the sources themselves and just hear from the horse's mouth just really what's going on, and even the more broader context, because there's so much more nuance and so much more interesting stuff that just doesn't fit into little tech blog headlines that are meant to capture clicks and manufacture drama and whatnot. So, Tommy, welcome to Tech News Around the World. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you here. hope you're enjoying and a belated happy midsummer as it was yesterday. And hope you're enjoying midsummer. But thank you for popping in to let us know what's going on with Resolution Games and yourself and the future of VR. It seems like we're on the cusp of VR really happening in a very big way. And I think it was you a few days ago who even did a tweet or an update that said now VR game developers can actually start making real money, and it seems like we're actually it's finally happening, is it not?
Thank you, Tyler. Yes, it's. I tweeted that we made it was $500,000 in the first 48 hours of
Yep. That was it.
our newly released game. Which is great to see. Typically we haven't seen those type of numbers outside a really established IP or something. Then this was a new game that we've been working on for a while. So that was great. Yes, there has been a lot of debacle around the advertising. It's, as you say, there is a lot of details around these things, and this was planned for one of our game called Blast On, which is a $10 player versus player dueling game that's been extremely popular. It's been really well received, but it's, as many initiatives in VR, rather small still, especially when you're trying to do something multiplayer. It requires many people to be online at the same time. And this game had been built with sponsors in mind from the get-go. You're in an arena. It takes place in the future, and it's esports setting for the game itself. So it felt like a natural place to experiment with advertising, but I didn't really foresee the backlash that will come from that, from people not liking the idea of advertising in a paid game, is what people are saying. I think that if we could have showed what we had in mind, it wouldn't have been a problem. But at the same time, we were absolutely smashed with a lot of really bad reviews, and it spilled over on all our games.
Yeah, but even they were. I guess you were getting this strong reaction even before they had actually seen it. You were getting pushback even at the announcement of the concept of it, if I understand correctly.
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, wow. So they're just fundamentally opposed on the principle of it, I guess.
I mean, I think we've all seen bad examples of advertising being really disturbing for an experience.
Right,
but I also feel, as a software engineer, that I would love to kind of get in early and help shaping the way I think. If you look at the soccer game right now, we have
it's covered in ads.
Championship, yeah, exactly. You have
and the
ads
esports arenas themselves are just covered in ads.
Yeah, and I don't think it's bringing the experience down at all. I don't.
No, it's part of the experience. Like all of the teams are, it's very clear that the teams are very proud of their brand sponsorships. It's like part of the aesthetic of that sport. It's like we are legitimate, just like the big soccer teams that wear Emirates Airlines on their chest or Carlsberg or whatever. Like they almost want to associate themselves that they have these huge partnerships as part of what they're doing. It kind of brings a sort of legitimacy to esports generally, if the way that I see it.
Tommy, can I just ask a question? Was there any mutterings or hint or suggestion at all for a free-to-play version that was supported by ads? Was that hinted at all or anything like that? Were you approached or that you could talk about?
Yeah, I definitely think that a large part of the community felt strongly against the fact that there was a paid game. Like, even though it's $10, it's still a paid game. So it's we've seen a lot of models where on mobile games, for instance, where you have advertising, that advertising is often pretty intrusive, and then you pay, and then advertising is removed. And I think that's a lot of the mindset that people are going into. So I think we have a free game, which is very popular, a fishing game called Bait. So our idea is to test it there instead, and I think that will be less sensitive.
Yeah.
Are you talking
Okay.
about Bait on Quest 2?
Yes.
I play that game like every day. I love that game. I love you.
Wait, which game?
Bait.
Sorry, Bait?
The fishing game Bait.
BAIT. It's a fishing game. It's really dope.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, my
Okay.
friend just told me to play that game.
Michael,
Yeah,
do
I
you
play
like
that
fish?
game
Do
every
you
day.
fish in real life? If so, we gotta go.
Oh yeah, hit me up, brother. We'll definitely make some plans.
I like.
Okay, so 1 second here. But Tommy, this is there's some interesting thoughts here. One is, are there not like the FIFA games? Aren't there not mobile games, but console games that have advertising as part of them? That's question number one. Question number two is, blogs when they started out for many years didn't have ads, and then my friend Jason, who I think you met when he came to Stockholm, put the first ad on the first blog. Coincidentally, it was a Volvo skyscraper ad, and it was met with incredible backlash, and people were screaming bloody murder, that he had just poisoned the well and blah blah blah. And now I think net people understand that it was kind of a net benefit for the evolution of the inevitable evolution of kind of monetized media on the web. And those are some of the thoughts that go through my mind, but I'm wondering what thoughts might be going through your mind in relation to those.
I think as games grow as a business and as a phenomena, we'll see more and more different business model being introduced, and ads are obviously a part of that, especially if you want to build kind of online worlds, which VR lends itself really well to.
Oh yeah.
But I
because
think in this case,
I mean, if you're trying to replicate any kind of reality, ads is so much a fundamental part of our existing reality anyways. So it would be weird to walk through Manhattan and not see ads.
Absolutely. But I think in this case, we people really reacted to the fact that it was a game that already existed, that some people had paid for, and the idea of advertising with this particular partner, I think, was something people reacted very strongly to. And we're quite a small company so far, so
well, they all are. I mean, you're only small in light of the fact that the platform is small, but it seems like the platform of VR might be, as you hinted in your tweet, about to explode. And I think, are we safe to assume that Apple's going to make an announcement at their next big iPhone event, as they traditionally do in early September? And if so, by the way, Zuckerberg, seems to be getting more enthusiastic about by the day, as he was just again recently at VivaTech, and about taking dance lessons in VR from dance instructors. And I wonder what can you speak to that? Like, do you feel that we're at this tipping point moment?
Yeah, it's definitely very exciting time. I think Facebook has done a fantastic job in really keeping funding VR, and got to a place where the hardware on the Oculus Quest 1 and 2 is really strong enough to keep engagement and retention there. So I'm super happy with that they acquired Oculus, and they've been really backing that significantly. And I do think advertising is something that will help both consumers and developers to make more money.
Totally. Well, let's think about this fact for a second. Facebook is fundamentally an ad network, right? And it's absurd to think that Facebook, being an ad network, doesn't foresee the future of VR having involving their ad network in some kind of way.
Agree.
Yeah, it's not, and by the way, that's why they're subsidizing the price of these Oculus headsets in some sense. That's why they seem underpriced, because they understand they're going to be able to monetize on the ads down the road. And it's going to be very interesting to see Apple's approach to this, and the fact that they're trying to create an ad network of their own simultaneously.
To me, to be honest, I was thinking about this the other day actually while I was playing. What game was I playing? I forget the game I was playing, but as I was looking around the streets, I was thinking to myself, you know what? I would prefer. I don't mind ads in game and VR because they can be in game and make sense in the game world versus the whole game being interrupted to run a fucking ad for something on my phone screen. It's like in VR, I can be driving past a billboard that actually is advertising, which is what a billboard is supposed to do, or on the side of a street, or like it makes logical sense for advertisements to be placed inside of a 3D world. And so it's far less evasive and far more, I think, something
less
that people will
disruptive.
it's less disruptive and something I think people will be much more generally okay with.
And far more targetable. Far more
absolutely.
far more personalizable, or whatever word you want to use. Other thoughts that you other gems you might be able to offer up, Tommy? I assume sounds like Resolution's doing well, and I imagine that now that we're on the cusp of VR breaking out, you are in the prime position to really benefit as one of the kind of marquee, kind of pole positioned developers in that ecosystem. But maybe you could, I imagine you will be potentially one of the companies that get reached out to if and when Apple wants to showcase VR games as part of their big keynote event. No doubt that you would have to have signed a non-disclosure agreement, but maybe you could flash your mic twice if you might be participating in the upcoming Apple event to demonstrate.
That would be a sure way of making sure that that wouldn't ever happen again.
Yes. Although, interesting, was it not that our friends from LifeSum, Marcus, was featured rather prominently in the most recent Apple keynote event. In fact, he opened the show with his beautiful chubby cheeks. I was kind of laughing. I don't know if you caught that. Anyway, but good for them. They've really benefited from these Apple events, and I hope you do too, if and when they do announce their hardware, which I think they are. Are you allowed to even posit a guess as to if they might do that at their September event, or are you assuming they might?
I've been working close with Apple for many years as a mobile games developer, and it's very difficult to say in advance what they're going to do or not. I think very few people internally, even at Apple, knows. But publicly, it's been said that this is an area of interest for them. VR has a lot of tie-ins with AR, and they're big believers in that. So it would make sense to approach that market. And for us as a content developer, it would be great to have another strong platform. I mean, Apple's been fantastically at spreading technology to a really wide number of people with who are good at spending money on content. So that'd be fantastic.
Well said. Well, I suspect you're in a great position, and I imagine your investors are happy. I think you have a very bright future. You're right in the right spot when a new mega platform is about to land. And wow, congrats, man! I mean, you've definitely spent the years earning this, kind of special spot that you now find yourself in, and it's you took the early gamble to jump into VR when it was not at all clear that it would be where it is today, right? So
thank you, Tyler. I mean, it's been VR has certainly been one of these technologies been 5 minutes away from happening for the
yeah.
past 8 years or so, or even longer. I tested my first VR back in '92 in an arcade machine here in Sweden, and I was blown away by the tech itself and thought that this is definitely going to be the future of games. You're now really inside the game world, but it's really taken a long time. But from our point of view as a developer, we're really seeing difference in engagement and retention, and that's of course key metrics.
On a closing thought, there was somebody, you'll probably know who, a notable figure in VR. I read way too many tweets, and his comment today was that he predicts I think he said by 2030 that VR headsets will be equal in number to gaming consoles today, which means
was the CEO of Unity.
Yes, it was exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And thank you, Tommy. It's a pleasure having you here. And pop back by anytime. You have a spot on stage anytime. And we'll do this like when we do the big Stockholm tech conferences. We're going to do it this year as a mixture, as a hybrid with this virtual audience. So essentially, we'll be on stage together physically, and then there'll be this extra additional virtual audience listening. So that'll be a kind of maybe we can even by that point loop in some VR elements. Who knows? That would be fun too. But thanks again for popping by on your midsummer.
Great, thank you very much.
All right, cheers.
Hey Tommy, if you ever need testers on any of your games or anything, hit me up. I'm super down.
So
thank you, Tommy.
Yes, thanks for coming by. So very nice of Tommy to swing by, and as he says, it's it's always good to hear it from the horse's mouth, and as we just did. So anything you hear from the journalist is essentially hearsay, which is sort of the nature of journalism generally. And interesting, though, that is for historical purposes, a very genuine effort to be potentially the first ad in VR land. And I think that's a really interesting development for the platform, which is inevitable. But it's interesting to see that people are responding just as they did in blogs and as they did in, believe it or not, in the YouTube space. Like, people get really weird. And by the way, even in Clubhouse, where we are in this very essentially ad-free environment, and we kind of have a no self-promotion policy of speakers on stage all throughout Clubhouse. And when people do, it gets very weird. However, I think in Spotify's version of Clubhouse, and I think it's the inevitable future of these platforms, that when you go into the room, when you click to enter the room, you'll be met with a 30-second targeted ad related to that room or related to your other interests as part of an ad network, which, by the way, Spotify already has that audio ad network in place. They could turn that on quite literally tomorrow if they really wanted to. And they could give that revenue to the room creator. And I don't see why they wouldn't, actually. So it gets very interesting very quickly. I think ads are going to come into social audio, this whole new experience, and in the Facebook version, very notably, because Facebook is an ad network, Spotify has an ad network. So those two versions will do it for sure. LinkedIn also has an ad network, so the LinkedIn version will likely do that. Clubhouse does not yet have an ad network, although no doubt they eventually will. And the question is, how will it be integrated, and how will people respond, and etc. So very cool, and another example of how we're going to continue to bring in people behind the headlines. And as I said right before Tommy jumped in, that Peter from Northvolt.
Tyler, can I add a weird or a bold prediction on the ad part?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think Stripe's going to get involved in this at all?
No, in the ad network game.
Well, in the providing data about who that person is game. I don't know if there would be the mechanism to serve ads, but if you want to know who you're targeting, would they play a role?
Oh, interesting. They could provide data to ad networks around. individuals that could enrich the data set of their ad networks. Maybe around their purchase histories. I wonder if they could do that. That gets very interesting, actually. And there has been a couple of interesting companies that made interesting plays in here. Very notably, Hjalmar Winblatt in Stockholm did a company called Wrap, which was a credit card. But as part of this credit card, you got all kinds of extra benefits in exchange for them being able to use your purchase history data as part of an ad network, so that they could target you based on the things you're buying, which Visa and MasterCard are obviously not allowed to do, right? Because they don't have your expressed consent to mine your purchase history data to target ads at you, because then those ads would be incredibly targeted, because anytime you bought anything, their competitor would then, of course, start sending you ads to switch over to them. So,
have you heard of a company named Klarna, perhaps? What they are doing with the data they are mining and selling from what you purchase through them? Have you heard of them ever?
This is that classic Swedish humor coming from Johan again. I will try and get Sebastian in here as well, Johan, and he can tell us what they're doing.
I can't actually see if he's online on Facebook. No, he's not online right now, so I can't ping him myself.
Okay. But indeed, Klarna, that's part of their secret sauce, is more so. I mean, they have incredible amounts of data because they're calculating real-time loans to people, and it goes far beyond that. They do know what you're buying as well, and they do have that data. And your purchase history data is some of the most valuable data you or anyone creates, essentially. And
I guess you have an account there. You really should go in and ask for a GDPR pullout. Mine was 400 pages. It was everything I bought at Systembolaget, which is the liquor store. It was everything I ever bought at the apotek, the pharmacy. It was everything I've ordered in numbers from ICA, which is the, I don't know what you... Supermarket. But the thing was here, in the data I did get out from Klarna, from my GDPR report, they had prediction that with kind of droves in the wine, because I'm into red wine to some extent, that I like more than the other ones, etc., etc. It was tons of information. So I actually asked Sebastian, do you sell this? I can't answer that. Period.
Johan, I'm confused. Sorry, just quickly. So they got all that data on you, but you don't use them to buy all those things, right?
No, he does.
You use Klarna to. Oh, you do.
Did.
Okay. All right. Okay.
But that's the unique element, is purchase history data has generally been off limits, but there's interesting examples of startups that have organized themselves to very expressively harvest that data and use that data in interesting ways. And that will give them a very unfair advantage indeed as an ad network. And again, it's just the consumers are not up to speed on what's actually happening with their data, whether it be their purchase history data, their medical data, and their attention data, their emails they're sending to people, and all the context of the information in those data. And now, very concerningly, and this is why we keep bringing it up, the microphones and cameras on your devices are now asking to be turned on and making it hard for you to turn them on. And then we're actually know they're in many cases on by default, and the GPS is on by default. And again, they're intentionally making it difficult to turn these things off because they are ad networks, and these ad networks are powered by data. And so they're constantly trying to figure out the new Facebook Watch, and now you know why. It's all about empowering and enriching, because each new data point is not singular. It has a multiplying factor on the previous datas. So when you add your geography with your purchase data history, your purchase data history is one thing, but then you add that to your geography, and that gets even multiplied more interesting. And you add that to other personal elements, they start multiplying in their ability to target you. So it's every new element enriches all the previous elements. That's what's so seemingly sinister about it. Anyway, and by the way, that's why the governments are all simultaneously all lining up to try and limit the influence of all of these things, because they become incredibly powerful. But now you know why they want to go into med tech, because that data is ridiculously powerful. And that's why they went into fintech, because that data was super powerful. It wasn't that they were actually interested in giving you better rates, on your savings accounts. It had nothing to do with it. And it's not that they're interested in giving you better health care. Like, make no mistake about it. They have far more self-serving interests in mind, which you will benefit from. Actually, it's a sweet deal. It's an offer you can't refuse. It's free. And by the way, there's other elements to this whole equation that are really interesting that people don't discuss about, which is because they are ad based, it drives down the cost of things. Amazon is putting downward pressure on prices. Google's all these big tech companies, based on their very innovative business models, are pushing down the price of everything, which is stopping inflation from going out of control at the moment. So the governments are in a real particular bind, because even the banks understand the fact that if you limit these big tech companies too much, they have a downward pressure on inflation, because Amazon and Google and everybody are putting downward pressure on all of the prices of everything. And if they're not able to do that, watch out inflation. And because that's the delicate line that the economists are dancing on at the moment with all these new what do they call it? These new bills to rejuvenate the economy without tipping us over into uncontrollable inflation. Other interesting headlines that we got to jump into. Anyone want to go first? I got a huge stream of headlines. If anyone's got burning with one, go ahead. Umesh.
Hey Tyler, thank you for getting me up. So one of the funniest news I found was there was a petition signed online for by 75,000 guys to ask to make the petition was about making sure Jeff Bezos doesn't come down back.
Yeah.
So this was super funny, and I found it like crazy.
It's just, there's another new one that's even sillier. It's like they want him to buy the Mona Lisa and eat it. And it speaks to the stupidity of signature collections at this point. And they're kind of doing themselves a disservice when they do totally pointless signature collections like this, I would argue. It's kind of demeans and trivializes the whole process in some sense. But it is funny. It's humorous, and the journalists get a little click out of it. So they get their click for the day. The EU, here's some big headlines. EU court is ruling. Carl, you did this one about ISPs forcing data on users. Speaking of data, Carl.
Yep, I did.
This is a big one, folks. Go ahead.
Yep.
Let's unpack this for the non.
Oh my dear Lord! I've sent you through several. You're going to have to give me a moment to find the bloody thing. Go ahead.
I'll read the headline. Watch this. EU court rules. ISPs, internet service providers, the pipes, can be forced to hand over customer data usage details. This is super important. Belgian firm must produce the IP addresses of BitTorrent users. Oh boy. Uh-oh. Whoopsie-doo. This is Chinese firewall behavior, folks, happening in Belgium.
Well, this happens in the U.S. all the time, Tyler. If you use BitTorrent, you get cease and desist letters, and you can have your internet switched off. That's Cablevision has been doing in mass.
VPN, everybody. By the way, tech news around the world now being sponsored by NordVPN. That's
also Apple is implementing something that would prevent the ISP from knowing where you
correct.
This is for your
not quite a VPN, but something similar.
They're going to obfuscate your IP addresses going forward, perhaps
not on your home broadband cable or
correct.
Fiber. That's
correct. But to help people understand this, it's the Belgium firm in this particular case is about BitTorrent users, and it would essentially make it either people who are using the Pirate Bay or any kind of P2P torrent sharing systems would be who knows, arrestable, or they could do whatever they want, fine you or whatever they decide to do, and this would cause an absolute boom in VPN usage, no doubt, and so much so that the VPN companies might be popping champagne bottles as we speak over this headline. As VPN, and by the way, Apple's going to start and Google will start integrating VPNs directly and almost turn them on by default, I imagine. That's also coming in the inevitable near future. There's a prediction for you. You're going to have VPNs sort of on by default, simultaneous to obfuscating your IP addresses, simultaneous to additional. Well, by the way, Apple announced it as part of iOS 15. They have a sort of their version of a VPN kind of obfuscator tracker built in, did they not, Carl? You remember this? It's sort of a twist on a VPN. It's not a traditional VPN, but it's it does cause a sort of leap, almost like a Tor, a Tor network effect. Did Carl jump out? He must have. So in the next version of the Apple's iPhone operating system called iOS 15, they've added a really clever new feature that will essentially work like a VPN. It adds an extra hop between you and these websites, which makes it impossible for them to know where you really are, because when they look back in the trace logs, it's not going back to you directly anymore. There's a kind of an intermediary unknown figure in the middle.
A proxy.
A proxy, yes.
It's actually double, and so Apple doesn't even know. If they
correct.
got subpoenaed, they wouldn't be able to provide any
Which
data.
will be taken out
They
in
use
China
third
for
parties,
Chinese iPhones.
Correct. Well, not only China. There was another couple countries that ruled that they wouldn't allow it. You remember what the other ones were, Evan?
I don't. I could guess. Let me guess. Totalitarian regimes?
Yes, but there was a surprising one. It was like Hungary or something.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, really interesting to see how this privacy stuff is just finally coming into the mainstream, because this is coming from a mainstream publication in the UK, for example, and it's partly why the politicians are finally getting their heads around this stuff, a decade later, and the Apple is communicating it directly to their consumers, as Dan is saying. It's becoming mainstream, the importance of data and the collection of data and how it's used in ad networks and how Apple's position in it, because Apple's really positioning themselves as the good guy in this on your side to protect you. It's really about enriching themselves, but it will help you if you're part of their ecosystem. And then Google did the same song and dance and Dog and Pony show as part of their live stream, which we all watched together. It was amazing to see how much of a song and dance they made out of it during their annual keynote. And that's going to be data is just going to, the sovereign cloud issue is all part of this, because the governments now understand the importance of keeping control of the data within their territories. And oh boy, it's complex. And we're all getting up to speed on stuff that was the privy golden nuggets of geeks for a very long time indeed. And now grandma's figuring it out. So here we are.
Sorry about that, Tyler. I had to nip out for a moment there.
No worries.
I've got a UK one that I'd really like to talk about.
Do
unless it. Yeah, is that right?
Yeah.
I have tweeted this. So this is, in the UK, we have the Internet Watch Foundation, the IWF, which is kind of linked to the NSPCC Childline organisation as well, which are, they basically look after sort of children, anybody with sexual health issues or might be in a disadvantaged home or impoverished and that kind of thing. And they've brought out this report removal tool. And this is a tool that is now hosted on the NSPCC website that can be used by any young person under 18 to report a nude image or video of themselves that has or may appear online. The IWF will then review the submitted content and work to have it removed if it breaks the law. And one way that they do this is they take the content, they pass it through their algorithm, they create a hash of it, which is basically a very long character string, which is a representative of that content. And then they pass that hash onto tech companies that can then basically use that in their internet, like ISPs can use it within their services to try and block it, and things like search engines can potentially use that hash to know what to block, and things like Facebook and content platforms. So this is a really, really, really good thing. It's a shame that something like this has to exist, but it's a really good sign of a government, of a charity, basically keeping up with the issues of technology and actually sort of catching up with it and getting ahead of it with some really cool tech. And I hope that this becomes a standard going. I don't know if this exists in any other countries, but it's a really heartwarming to see a UK sort of charity dip their toes into this tech, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Mm-hmm. Again, a whole new other data
Speaking of
element.
that, the story I talked about last night or morning, whatever time, the other last time slot, about this new research showing that all the stuff we talk about tech news around the world, about how we have instant communication and all these different social media platforms, it's actually disrupting the way humans have evolved and communicated in the past, because before it was all one-on-one or small groups of people and then people you knew, and now you can talk to everyone in the world just like we're doing right now, and that this is very disruptive and very dangerous. He put it as dangerous as climate change, and actually contributing to climate change, because it's making it harder, for example, to address the problem, because disinformation can flow so easily and quickly, and it breaks up the trusted channels. Very interesting article. It's not an article, it's a paper. And I can retweet it again. I did tweet it yesterday to Tech News Around the World. Anyway, it's a little bit like we're, let's say it's 70 years ago, we're all talking about how excited we are that we're rolling out new gas stations and new cars are coming out and fossil fuels are easier to extract. And we're all really excited, positive about it. And we don't know about this looming problem on the horizon. So I think it's kind of a wake-up call to pay attention to all these social platforms and look at it from a bigger, wider perspective about its impact on social fabric. And there's a lot of positives it does, but it's also doing some really dangerous things as well. Anyway, so take a look. It's in the tweet. It's actually summarized quite well. I'll retweet it here in the next minute. Thanks.
Who is overseas American fed up with USG discrimination? They just did a really good tweet that I just retweeted from the Tech News Twitter account at TNATW about Toyota working on robots for complex situations like household chores. And there's a photo of a robot in a household doing household chores.
Please be laundry. Please be laundry.
Yeah.
Please be laundry.
If robots have any chance of conquering humans, they'll probably need to master shiny surfaces. And there's a video, everybody, of a robot in a kitchen, in a house, called the Robo Selfie. Very interesting. It says robots have come a long way, but still face incredible challenges when it comes to tasks and environments that seem pretty run-of-the-mill for humans. And that's what the Toyota Research Institute, TRI, and the video from them demonstrates robots solving complex tasks in unstructured home environments. Our goal is to build robotic capabilities that amplify, not reduce human abilities. Training robots to understand how to operate in home environments poses special challenges because of the diversity and complexity of our homes, where small tasks can add up to big challenges. And in the video, you can see exactly that. But of course, to see the video, you got to see the tweet that we just sent out. And thank you to who sent it in, that American expat. To overcome these challenges, Toyota Robotics developed a novel training method to perceive the 3D geometry of the scene while also detecting objects and surfaces. And that's why it's ahead with two cameras, with bifocal cameras. That'll give it a more realistic 3D ability to see what's going on in the environment. And this combination enables researchers to use large amounts of synthetic data to train the system. And again, you got to go to the Twitter account at TNATW to see the tweet about Toyota's new robotic household robot. Kind of cool looking. Well, let's hope they don't partner with Disney with that Silence of the Lambs looking realistic facial robot. Oh my God, I'm still shuddering for those who watched that one. You know what I mean? That thing was giving me nightmares. Carl, you had the one about TSMC?
I did, yeah. Where they were talking about. So we've talked quite a bit about TMSC, about TSMC, sorry, about how they're kind of pivotal in the chip making. They're one of, one of 2 or 3 chip makers that basically have the oligopoly on all the silicon, really, that runs everything. And they've had growing ties with Apple over the last couple of months, over the last couple of years.
Yep.
And now they've an unnamed source of the chip makers say that they are now going to prioritize car manufacturing and Apple. And then as a secondary, manufacturers of PCs, servers, and network devices. And this, more than anything, this really highlights the power that fucking Apple has over there, because they are saying that Apple, the singular company that invests a fair amount and has very close ties with them, is equal importance to all the car firms in the world that are currently clamoring to get their hands on these chips.
Correct.
And everybody else can come second with their begging bowls.
Well,
so pretty big news.
Outside of HTC, I mean, Apple was the only one that really believed in them when they wanted to migrate from Samsung, because Samsung made the chips. Samsung and another smaller manufacturer were making all the ARM chips for Apple, and they couldn't get enough supply. And then TSMC was coming on board with much smaller fabs, and that was when they made the jump almost like 10 years ago. So it pays to be loyal to Apple, and it pays for Apple to be loyal to you, you know?
Yep, exactly right. And because it was Steve went over to Intel to see if Intel could do what they needed for the iPhone, and they really couldn't, and TSMC could, and they've been together ever since. And in some sense, Apple played a very big supporting role in the growth of TSMC, and now you're seeing kind of some loyalty repaid there. Now that Apple knows that there's a massive chip shortage and they got their iPhones coming out, and TSMC has got to make tough choices about which of their partners to fulfill those orders.
They get into what's called a most favored nation contract with these manufacturers, where they become the favorite customer, so to speak. So they always get first rights.
Yep. And then somebody just sent in the tweet. This overseas American Twitter account just sent in another one about Clubhouse building a new DM chat feature, which they call the back channel. Because as everyone knows here in Clubhouse, especially the shoot your shot rooms, everyone's trying to get up in your back channel here in Clubhouse. So it's
So how are you going to use that for tech news, Tyler?
I don't know if I can protect you from people getting up in your back channel, Evan. You're on your own.
All are welcome.
Yeah, I can't control the DMs too much.
Yeah.
Just to reiterate what we talked about this morning on this, because it came up then as well, It's not clarified whether it is a one-to-one DM chat, so you can message another user, or maybe the owner of a group or club can message the members, or whether it's actually a live room chat, because those two things are very, very different how they'll impact Clubhouse. So that's not clear at this point.
Yeah, one point that people fundamentally don't get is that over there in Gemland, as I'm starting to call it, where the people are just gemming each other up. Every time I pop over there lately, it's a bunch of people, gem thirsty, gem hoarders, just gemming each other up. Literally half the rooms are about people sharing gems with each other, which is truly stupid. And that needs to be addressed. And I think it could be easily fixed if you charged people even $1 for 100 gems and make them worth a penny each. That could kind of fix that problem very quickly, as Facebook is doing, because Facebook has stars, but they charge you $1 for 100 stars, and so that kind of limits that retarded behavior. Sorry, I didn't mean to use that word. Idiotic behavior. So what else? The Clubhouse DMs is an interesting idea. However, the other thing about the Spotify Green Room is that people who are in the chat are not paying attention to the conversation fundamentally, and I wonder if people speaking on stage obviously understand that some part of the audience is not listening at all to what they say, and that will have a very different sort of dynamic and create a different kind of environment where you're people who want to have a very focused discussion will use Clubhouse, and people who want to have a much more gamified, less serious discussion might use Spotify. We'll see. But it'll have an impact, make no doubt about it. Every subtle little feature can have a surprising amount of impact on the outcomes. Evan?
A short
The
one
title.
Go ahead,
a short one regarding the diamond rooms.
Yep.
The thing was that in the old version that was before it went to green room, they actually had a huge bot infestation of spam bots that were trying to target people to come to our site to bet on this game. And if you go into any of the hockey league discussions, or you can still see these spam messages coming through there, and it is just minutes away from they will target the big rooms on the other channels as well, besides of the sports one, with the same shit, because they actually have the engines for it and they have the knowledge of how to do it. So they will probably have a field day now when it storms in people. I'm done.
Yeah, I've been watching the traffic going in there. It's been rather slow. I think they're up to like 130,000 and they're adding about 10,000 a day. But it doesn't seem like they're making that strong of a push at the moment. I don't think they need to, because as soon as they integrate it with the proper Spotify app with 300 million monthly active users, and you're automatically following all your favorite artists, and your artists go in that room, holy shit, they don't need marketing at all if they take that approach. So, which time will tell. India now orders a probe into Google for antitrust practices with Android TV. And no doubt, let me guess, something to do with data, perhaps? Let's see. India's competition watchdog has ordered a probe into Google in a case alleged that the company abuses its dominant position in the smart TV space. So it's not in this case. The watchdog said that based on its preliminary estimation, the market share of different licensed smart TV operating systems, it appears that the market share of Google's Android TVs is almost 90%. Yeah, it's because they make Android for TV, which is the best OS for TV. And if you were a TV manufacturer, you would use Android too, because there's network effects. Yeah, interesting. That they've now reached the Microsoft Windows level of 90%, and that brings in the antitrust folks to crack down on your monopoly. Shall I go through the tweet, the endless stream of tweets, or somebody want to jump in with a headline real quick? Carl, you want to do this one on NATO?
If you want, this room's heard my voice a lot this afternoon. I don't mind.
No, go for it.
Okay.
You like the British accent.
Oh, there was a female there. I think there was a lady there.
That was Cheryl trying to make a joke.
All right, fair enough. Okay. Yeah, so this comes out of NATO in the last. I don't know when this was. I think it is. Actually, no. Hold on. I've just realised this is from June 16th. Sorry, Tyler. Do you want to? I mean, we'll go over it anyway because we've started. This is basically talking about the NATO meeting and them talking about the 2030 reform. And they talk about a lot of things in here, including the environment and everything else. But one of the key things that they've picked up on is to strengthen the collective cybersecurity to better deter attacks from malicious actors like Russia, who, amongst with like China, for instance, they are not part of NATO. So it seems that even at the highest levels of the international community, they are making these collaborative agreements to battle all of the cyber attacks that we've been seeing over the past couple of months.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep, as they need to do. Here's an interesting article from Elad Gil, who's one of the best angel investors, about the unicorns blowing up everywhere. And the headline in summary is that unicorns, the United States added 154 new unicorns since October of 2020. So a bit less than a year, 10-ish months or so, 9 months. And then, which is 66% of the global total. So 2 out of 3 new unicorns still happening out of the US. And for context, Europe added 25 in that same period. India added 11 and China added just 9. And will be interesting to see how those continue to develop. So I will tweet that out from the Tech News Twitter account so you can see all of that juicy data. And then
A few of those Chinese companies may have been U.S. IPOs. I don't have the data, but there might be a few of those there.
Also within the U.S., 60 and again there was, what was it, 120 something in the U.S. 69 of them are from Silicon Valley, 30 from New York, 8 from L.A. Oh no, this is global. Oh, okay, so globally, looking at cities, not countries, we had 69 new unicorns out of Silicon Valley, 30 out of New York, 8 out of 8 out of LA, 8 out of London, 7 out of Bengaluru, 7 out of Tel Aviv, 7 out of Chicago. That's kind of impressive, actually. 6 out of Boston, 5 out of Paris, 5 out of Berlin, 4 out of Toronto. And they, as usual, and this is kind of a very sore spot with me, we've had about 6 or 7 out of Sweden this year. And they don't rank stock. We've had 7 out of Stockholm this year since January, and they rank Paris with 5, and Berlin with 5, and Boston with 6, and Chicago with 7, Tel Aviv with 7, Bengaluru with 7, London with 8, and Los Angeles 8. No Stockholm with 7. Interestingly, it's funny
it's just myopia, Tyler. Like, these journalists don't know about, if they haven't been there before, they don't think it exists.
There's definitely some truth to that. Although funny, they do count it on the market cap of total total of billions in market cap invested. They do rank Sweden just below, the UK, and above Germany and Korea and France and Singapore and Israel. Yeah, we do raise a lot more money than them, and we do have more unicorns. But yeah, you're right. People are always rather stunned when they find out how many unicorns come out of this tiny little town with 1 million people. But it's not surprising once you get there and you start meeting the people, like Tommy, who I think Resolution Games is actually going to be the next unicorn in Stockholm, probably by the end of the year, especially if Apple kicks off their VR, AR project. So, or they might already be one, and my apologies if they are. It's very likely that they are. I think they are, actually. Anyway, other interesting headlines at the moment. Yeah, we did the Clubhouse DM feature. We did the Toyota robot. Katarina, you want to do this one about invasive disease linked to freshwater fish? Are you on stage, Katarina? She normally has her hands up. I will do this one for her. Or Cheryl, you want to do about Brazil? Earth to Cheryl.
You can read. I don't have it ready.
Okay, here it is. Brazilian senator says social media firms may be probed over pandemic role. Last week, the vice president of the Senate Commission in Brazil requested that representatives of Google, Facebook, and Twitter testify before the Investigative Council, known as CPI. The request may have yet to be approved by other lawmakers of the body. What is this all about? They're being called, here's the quote, they're being called as witnesses, but yes, they could be investigated if the commission so decides, so it would be good for them to come here and explain properly what kind of platforms allow for an illness so difficult and painful for Brazil that they still allow their platforms to propagate medication that has no scientific basis. Brazil, who tragically fumbled COVID, is now found the real source of the problem.
Yeah, it's not Bolsonaro, is it? It's the big tech.
It's not that your prime minister, all of your leaders thought it was a hoax. No, it's not that at all. No, it's Twitter. It's Twitter. Jesus Christ.
It's definitely easier for them to push the blame to somebody else.
Yes, but now you know why Jack Dorsey wants to make a decentralized Twitter, so he can tell these guys to go play with themselves. Go have fun with yourself. Yeah. Wow. Brazilian politics. To prescribe medication via YouTube, Instagram, Twitter is a crime, the Senate says. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see what happens. There will be
and tragically, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal that South America has 7 times the global death rate for COVID as we speak. So just a terrible, terrible situation going on.
Yeah, the Brazil really, really did not win the gold or bronze or silver medals in the COVID Olympics. Fake Google ads used to lure victims to malware-rigged apps, essentially, coming from Tech Radar. Drive-by download campaigns are poisoning Google's search results, warns experts. Cyber criminals are using malicious Google ads and web pages to lure unsuspecting users into downloading and executing an information-stealing malware. And I can explain, without even reading this article, what exactly is going on. Is it costs, in some cases, only a few pennies to run Google ads. And basically, the whole trick of these malicious malware hacks is they trick you into clicking on anything, which then in the background installs a nefarious malware app into your device, whether your laptop or your phone or whatnot. The difficult part is getting you to click on something, whether that be a link in your email or a photo or in this case, a very clever new twist on an old trick, which is, what about an ad that you might find really interesting based on something else you previously, a web page you went to previously? So they can look at your cookies, saw that you were looking at some particular item on Amazon, and then make an ad for a ridiculously low price. Oh, that thing you were just looking at that was $5,000. Yeah, we got it right here. If you buy it now in the next 30 minutes for, 80% off, blowout sale. And if you click on that ad, just the action of clicking launches the behavior, the JavaScripts that install this malware. So it's a new, and it's hard to detect because it's not some, bad spammer, with bad grammar messaging you saying, hey, click my dangerous link. It's, a seemingly interesting, enticing ad. So it's a very clever, nefarious campaign, malware campaign, which I wonder how the ad networks will deal with that. Very interesting indeed. And thank you to whoever sent that in. Katerina, still not here. She's as usual sending in a whole bunch of really interesting tweets. One is a new research effort aimed to vet digital health data from wearables, which is one of the hot topics du jour for sure. No pun intended. And it's coming from...
She's here now.
Oh, you're here. Katerina, you want to talk about this? It's hard to know what's trustworthy. A new research effort aims to vet digital health data from wearables, which, thank God, somebody's paying attention.
Yeah, I don't know if I can, add too much, but it's basically, research says that, it's not really reliable how people collect it and so on. So, it's like basically trusted more than it's worthy of trust right now, at least at the current state of technology.
Yeah, it's a serious issue, similar to the malware ads, and as this article says, COVID-19 upended the way clinical trials get done and don't get done. With in-person visits on hold last year, drug companies jump-started the decades-old idea to enable trial participations from home. The momentum towards virtual decentralized trials is continuing. Many drug companies are aiming to deploy digital devices like smartwatches and connected blood pressure cuffs to streamline data connection and develop new endpoints, but often the evidence...
On the blockchain, too.
Yeah, the evidence behind those digital measures is far from solid. Before investing in outfitting study participants with a suite of at-home tech, pharma companies and regulators will want to see proof that a wearable or Wi-Fi connected device measures what it's supposed to, which is a very good point. Or else you're going to get a lot of faulty studies, and people are going to make faulty decisions based on faulty studies.
Well, they had this with Fitbit, didn't they? There was a half a year ago or a year ago, something like that. Fitbit was I can't believe it. I can't remember if it went to class action, but there was a hell of a lot of people that were very angry when it came out that just the bio readings that were coming from their devices, some of them quite high end, were in no way near correct to proper readings. So, yeah.
Yep. So this dating app called Bumble out of Austin, Texas, which recently IPO'd, is in the news, in a lot of news. saying it is giving all of its 700 employees a paid, fully offline 1-week vacation in June, to which the Scandinavians are kind of laughing themselves silly while they're currently on their 6-week summer break and enjoying midsummer in their lakeside cabins. Wow, a whole week for you Americans. Fantastic. Come over and spend that week with us while we take our 6-week summer break here in Scandinavia. But what I find interesting about this article, CNBC is the headline that I just read, that Bumble says they're doing this to recognize the challenges endured during the pandemic. BBC's headline is Bumble closes to give burnt out staff a week's break. CNN says Bumble just gave its entire staff the week off to recharge. Bloomberg says this, The Independent says that, the Business Journal this, everyone's reporting this, which tells you that this is a PR stunt. And they're actually...
They've sent it out to everyone. They've
yes.
sent it out, yeah.
Is this about your employees or is this about you getting a lot of incredible PR value? Why are you... I just gave $1,000 to someone, everybody. Hello, CNN. Hello. Yes, I'd like to inform you that I just gave somebody $1,000. Yes. Okay, let me call. Are you busy? Fox News. Hi, Fox News. We just gave somebody $1,000. Are you interested? No, you're not. Okay. Well, let's call. Let's put out a huge PR campaign, everybody. Okay, let's have the meeting. Okay, Sarah, sit down. All right. Here's the plan. I got it. This is genius. We're going to give our employees a week off. Okay. But no, we're not just going to give them a week off. There's more. Oh yeah, there's more. We're going to let the entire world know. Call every journalist you ever met. Do you have a dictionary full of journalist phone numbers? Okay, good. Let's definitely use that and we know they did this because it's being covered by every damn buddy. And well done, PR team at Bumble. Your chief marketing officer deserves 2 weeks off because they managed to leverage and get you into the headlines in a really beautiful, positive way as the fantastic employers you are, for giving your team a week off due to the challenge.
I tweeted you the standard American out of office greeting, Tyler, if you check your mentions on Twitter. Thanks.
Say that again? Oh, okay. Hold on 1 second.
The standard European versus American out of office message, I think.
Oh, yes. I'm retweeting that now, and I will read it for those too lazy to click on our Twitter account. Now that the Europeans are doing their 6-week summer vacation, by the way, yes, 6 weeks paid, fully paid 6-week vacation. And the Americans are doing from Bumble in Austin, Texas, are doing their 1-week gracious vacation, which you may have just heard about here because it's been widely reported. So they have to do these out of office auto email responders, right? When they're out of office, to let you know they won't be answering emails. Because, by the way, when the Europeans do their 6-week vacation, they do not answer their emails. In fact, it's a very strong cultural thing that you don't email people even on weekends, even when they're not on vacation. In fact, even after working hours, after 5 p.m., you don't email people about work. That's Sweden, by the way. No weekend emails, no after 5 p.m. emails, and certainly no emails needed during the 6-week summer vacation. And now you know why I was so grateful and thankful to Tommy for jumping in here the day after midsummer, the most important day of the year for Swedes, to jump into Tech News Around the World and tell us about what's going on with Resolution Games, as he did. Now, so the European out-of-office email says, I'm away camping for the summer. Please email me back after September. The American out-of-office email responder says, I have left the office for 2 hours to undergo kidney surgery, but you can reach me on my cell anytime. Which
I love that.
Laughing at your own tweets there, Evan.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, but if you've spent any time in Europe,
if you can do that,
yes.
You're a happy man.
Yes, it's
the real kicker would be that, I'm sorry about the crying baby. You'd finish it with, and I'll be working for the next 6 years to pay for the surgery.
Oh my God! So
ouch!
True.
Ouch! Ouch! At this moment, I will take a minute to thank the hospital in Copenhagen, where I did break my ankle on the way, rushing to jump on the train to go to the airport in Stockholm. The flight attendants were very nice, iced my ankle. I arrived in Copenhagen, went to the hospital, And I was assured, and it was true at the end, they don't have cash registers in Danish hospitals. They wouldn't know how to charge you even if you insisted to pay. They don't have a system for collecting payments from anyone entering their hospitals. And they give you crutches and anything else you care to take out of the hospital with you that can help you on your journey. And all they ask is that you hand them off to somebody who can benefit from them. And if it's convenient to you, you can bring them back when you're done, or, do whatever makes sense to you with these crutches after you're done with them.
Even for tourists?
Yes, as a tourist.
Oh, God.
As an American who had only just arrived, 30 minutes before, and who's leaving the next day.
So the taxpayers are paying for that?
Correct.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you, Johan.
Yes.
Thank you, Johan.
What is this world getting to?
Yeah. I just have to ask, just again, a very sincere thank you to Denmark. Sweden is not quite as generous. So it's not Johan necessarily. It's we can thank who's the gentleman who does Be My Eyes from Denmark?
Hans,
yeah. Beautiful system they have there. Anyhow, Cal, you want to do this antitrust review of Amazon?
Yeah, this is very interesting because Lena Khan, who just reported this last week, a 32-year-old just taken the position at the FTC as chairwoman. Yeah. Quite a firebrand, strong opinions and perspective on antitrust perspective. Made a name out of work she did at university and beyond. But she's a very, very, very strong player. But what I didn't realize is that, not realize, but it's highlighted here, is that the agencies negotiate on who's going to review what, right? So during a recent interagency negotiation, the FTC secured the right to review Amazon MGM deal. So she must have negotiated hard, right? People familiar with the matter said the FTC pushed for jurisdiction over the merger review because it already has an open, wide-ranging antitrust investigation into Amazon's business practices. So she's going to be on Amazon, really. She must have negotiated to get this deal under her as well, and so to be seen and watched as they put pressure on Amazon. And Justin has reported on this too as well. It's going to be strong.
Thank you for that. Speaking of being strong, Heyman, you want to do this TechCrunch article? Paging Dr. Heyman. Oh, he's doing the MedTech news. That's why he's tweeting this.
No, Sorry. He hasn't started it, though.
Oh, yeah, but is he back? Yet. Okay. So his headline is that Canadians are polite. This is the headline from TechCrunch. Canadians are polite, but we're still recruiting your biotech talent. Canadian leaders remain concerned about the inbound flow of talent to key sectors like advanced manufacturing, clean tech, and biotech. And indeed, it is starting to heat up as a bit of the smart countries, I should say, understand that it's a talent battle. And I see this in my line of work very directly with AI developers very specifically. And you know who's most aware of this global talent battle and trying to acquire the best AI minds on the planet, Cal?
Who?
China. They've been at this for a very long time, and they have gone and cherry-picked around the world, very notably Harvard, around all the top innovators at Harvard, genetic engineers, and the artificial intelligence, all the top most interesting minds get incredible offers to come to China, because they understand.
But some of them actually also here in Oxford. Some of them stay in Oxford and work from here too.
Yes, that too.
University.
And the Harvard professors often stay at Harvard as well. But they understand the importance of these key brilliant minds. Edwin, are you in the audience? No, that's the fundraising announcement. Cheryl had another interesting one just now, that the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, which is all about growing the American companies domestically and abroad, yesterday criticized the antitrust legislation set to be considered tomorrow by the U.S. House of Representatives Committee, saying that these new 5 bills aimed at the throats of the 5 big tech companies would have, quote unquote, dangerous consequences for America. Ouch. Ouch. And so, yeah, U.S. Chamber of Commerce on Tuesday criticized, saying dangerous consequence for America. Thank you for that, Cheryl. Interesting to see the U.S. Chamber of Commerce doing for their paid members what they are paid to do. Yeah. So Canadians are polite. Yeah, we covered that one. TikTok has a new function or feature called Jump, which lets its creators enhance their videos with mini app integrations. Links in bios will no longer be necessary as TikTok creators, at least to certain kinds of content. Today, TikTok introduced Jump, a new way for creators to add interactivity to their videos via third-party integrations. So, for example, a cooking video could feature a list of ingredients from an app called Whisk, and you might also be able to take a quiz from an app called Quizlet, or a breathing exercise via breathwork. The company has beta tested this feature before. As of today, all users will be able to see and interact with these new jumps, but only a select group of creators will be able to add them to their content. And this is speaks to how TikTok is becoming a super app by becoming a bit of an app store itself and integrating what they're calling micro apps, little snippets of other apps into them, so that essentially TikTok, let me unpack this for everybody. What was happening was creators were putting links in their bios, similar to what you see on YouTube. When the YouTube creator says, this is my rent, and oh, by the way, there's a link in my bio that will take you to my camera that I'm promoting right now, and you can go buy it there. And here's a link to this other thing I'm talking about, and you can go there. And TikTok creators are doing the same thing. Instagram creators do the same thing. The problem is the apps hate that because it makes the user leave the app. And they're trying their hardest to keep you in the app. So they come up with a very clever strategy, which is build whatever that link was going to, like an e-commerce store or, Wikipedia, which it's not a surprise that Wikipedia is one of the first partners in this new TikTok Jump feature. Will keep everybody inside of TikTok without needing to leave. So you get a little snippets of the internet of these other apps bundled into TikTok, so that you as a TikTok user and viewer no longer need to leave TikTok, and now you know what's really going on. It's not for you, the creator, it's for TikTok to keep their users inside of their app as long as possible, because that's the name of the game. But it does benefit the content creators as well, who can also monetize products and features and sell stuff directly from within their videos without the users leaving to go to an e-commerce site, which is very interesting.
Tyler, I dug into this a little bit, and I
Yeah?
can shed like an interesting twist on it, if it's okay.
Yeah.
So, like you said, a lot of the other platforms, Google, YouTube, Snapchat, they're kind of doing this. They're introducing the whole payment thing where you can link through to your store and whatnot. TikTok are doing this in a really, really, really interesting way, because they're using the words mini programs and mini apps, but they're not. What they are is they're just HTML5 script, which is the most basic part of doing a web page. It's just an embedded web page. And if I could take anybody on this stage and with a couple of hours teach them enough to make their own little web page. So the way that they've gone about this not only opens up a huge amount of sort of programming capability, because I don't know the restrictions that they're doing on the assets that you can pull in, but you could potentially pull in all sorts of integrations, web integrations into your app if you wanted to. But the key aspect of this is they're making it really, really, really easy for people to do. You're not going to need to go to a company to build this mini app for you. If you are, say, for instance, Heyman wants to do links through to his dance videos, he can do this himself. He'll be able to figure this out and do it himself really, really, really easily through many of the tutorials that are online in just a few hours. So they are making this unbelievably accessible. So you can bet that every single content creator on TikTok is going to want to do this one way or another. Now, they are vetting them at the moment. They're taking them through a process where you have to provide them an example of what you're building, and then an example of the videos, the content that you do. So you have to send them an example of your current content, and then they'll review it. But that's going to relax going forward for sure. And they're probably looking to automating it, for instance. And their team that they've got reviewing it will grow, so they'll be able to pump it through faster and faster and faster. But the really key point of this is they're not partnering with a third party to provide this integration, and they're not making it a bespoke, custom solution for you to integrate it. It's just a very, very simple HTML5 based web page, which is if I was designing this, I couldn't think of an easier way of onboarding people for this. So they've done this really, 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 really intelligently.
Yeah, but it's making it as light as possible. Purely just do whatever it takes to the bare minimum to keep people from leaving the app, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
And if you leave the app early, you'll never know about Carl and my ballet lessons. How did you tell them, Carl? Why did you tell them?
Yeah. Well, the word's out now, Heyman.
I know.
It was going to get out one way or another eventually. Now everyone knows you are the master dancer of TikTok. And soon they'll find out why you keep saying you're Heyman from Toronto. And boy, I can't wait for that secret to get out. A Swedish court upholds the ban on Huawei in selling 5G network gear in Sweden. And boy, do I know a little backside story to this little headline. A Swedish court on yesterday, upheld a ban against Huawei selling 5G equipment in the country, dashing the Chinese company's hopes of staging a comeback in Europe and increasing the chances of potential retaliation. Oh, wait, what? A Swedish court on Tuesday upheld a ban against Huawei selling 5G equipment in Sweden, dashing the Chinese company's hopes of staging a comeback in Europe. Yep. And increasing the chances of a potential retaliation by China against rival Ericsson. Kudos to you, journalist who wrote this one. Where are you? Johan Allander. Ah, he's Swedish. That's why he knows. Okay. So, Johan, like many Swedes, because Sweden is, Stockholm's only 1 million people. The really interesting thing, and yeah, kudos to you, Johan Allander, who's obviously Swedish, knew the really interesting background to this story. There was much more to the story than I bet the non-Swedes will not be picking up on. So here's what's interesting about this. There's essentially the two big players in 5G are Huawei in China and Ericsson in Sweden. And and it's worth kind of footnoting that when Huawei moved into Europe, they just happened to, what a miraculous coincidence, moved in directly next door to the building next door to Ericsson. What a wild coincidence. Of all the buildings in Europe, you pick the one next door to the team that builds, 3G, 4G, and now 5G, and you move in next door, and now you're doing 5G. What amazing coincidence. Anyways, back to the story. Sweden is banning Huawei. Gee, I wonder why. I wonder how they got 5G. Maybe it has something to do with where they put their building. But anyways, so Sweden's banning Huawei's 5G. Now, there was one very interesting individual who was begging, literally begging, not to ban Huawei in Sweden. Can you imagine who that individual is?
CEO at Ericsson.
The CEO of Ericsson was begging, please do not ban Huawei in Sweden. Now, why would Huawei's biggest competitor in Sweden be begging not to ban Huawei in Sweden? I'm going to tell you why right now. And I'll give you a hint. As Johan, who wrote the article, says, this is dashing the Chinese company's hopes of staging a comeback in Europe and increasing the chances of a potential retaliation against rival Ericsson, because he knows, as he just hinted right there, that now China is going to retaliate and ban Ericsson in China, which is about 15% of Ericsson's business. So I need to go to my Robinhood app and short Ericsson, if you'll excuse me just for a second, because Ericsson's about to lose 15% of their business as a result. Goddamn, why wasn't I sitting on the courthouse steps as this decision was being made? That's why the CEO of Ericsson knew that they were going to be banned from China if Sweden banned Huawei from Sweden, because that's how China plays. So
yeah, this is the textbook for all industrial industries, from aerospace to cars. I mean, the same thing with Boeing and Airbus selling in China. They're under threat of, homegrown aircraft and or not being able to sell if, the World Trade Organization rules in the wrong way.
Cheryl, what is this one about India? About Google be in violation of competition laws about smart TV? We covered that one. Thank you. Yes, and Cheryl also tweeted in the further blow to Huawei. Oh, now this will be. Oh, now let's read the Chinese publication's version of this same story, shall we? This will be fun. So we read the Swedish guy, Johan, covering the story about Huawei ban in Sweden, and now, of course, they're going to be retaliated against, as he, as a Swede, well knows, because anyone who has friends at Ericsson knows exactly what was going on. So now here's the headline from China, from the South China Morning Post. Huawei 5G ban is upheld by Swedish court in further blow to Chinese telecoms giant European plans. The ruling in Huawei's second loss on appeal after authorities in Stockholm barred the company from its network in October, citing national security. It says, our door remains open to constructive dialogues with relevant parties to work out practical solutions to mitigate any security concern, Huawei says. And a Swedish court has ruled Swedish regulator Post Telecom Authority banned the company from the network in October. Sweden's security is of heavy importance, and the administrative court has taken into account that only the security police and the armed forces together have an overall position on this. And no mention of retaliation from the Chinese South China Morning Post. But there you go. So what do we got, Heyman? We got 5 minutes before our friend Heyman is going to open up the MedTech room. If I understand correctly, Heyman.
Yeah, whenever you guys are ready, we're ready.
Go ahead and get it started there.
Okay, I'll go over.
Do you need Cal to unlock it or anything like that?
Yeah, I'll go over.
Yes, that'll be great. Thank
you. Okay.
Yeah, I'll go over.
So they're going to go over and get the MedTech news started, which is a lot of fun. We do it every week, and join us over there. And join us on the Twitter account, Tech News Around the World. Follow that, because there's a Facebook live stream coming up with Mark Zuckerberg starting in a few minutes as well. And we might go do that over, and we'll see what happens. But you got to follow the Twitter account if we go live in Spotify's app or in the Twitter Spaces or in Facebook Live, all these new Clubhouse clones that we try out from time to time. But you got to follow the Twitter account to get those notifications, of course. And I will tweet out right now the link to the new Tech News Around the World shop, which does 36 different items. My favorite being the clock. But there's something for everybody in there, for coffee mugs and tumblers and, of course, shirts and iPhone covers and everything you can imagine. And I will tweet that out right now. Actually, you can go to it yourself. It's just technewsaroundtheworld.com, simply enough. And let me test that the link is still working without the W's. Tech News Around the World. I spelled it there. Tech News Around the World. Oh, Chrome, come on. What are you doing? Tech News Around the World.com. Here we go. No, you got to put W's at the front of it for some reason. Is anyone else getting it to work on their browser? Yeah, now it works. Okay. Yep, it's working. You give it a couple tries for the
it's working.
IP addresses to allocate. Anyway, okay, but check that out. And if you want to be more beautiful, more happy, more successful, you're definitely going to want to get one of these hoodies or T-shirts, because you can tell by the looks on the models' faces how happy they are for wearing these shirts. It's really life-changing in a way that we really don't have time to cover at length. But like these models wearing the shirts on this web on the Tech News Around the World shop, you will be more beautiful, healthy, and happy.
I'm really disappointed that I couldn't model one of them.
But when
Does it come in 3XLT?
I think, well, by the way, Cal, when you do get I saw your order of 4 T-shirts and coffee mugs, and when you get them, please do take a selfie so we can add you as a model.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. The whole family. The whole family.
I'll make the next fair trade hemp version for you all.
Okay.
Please, let's get the sustainable impact. We've got our corporate social responsibility actions to take hold of on this planet, everybody. Thank you. It's Fiona.
Thank you,
I
Fiona.
Well,
expect
I
pretty
need my
much.
American size, Tyler. I need 3XLT.
I
Tyler, I
gotcha.
expect pretty much for the UAE.
Yes. So I think Heyman has his room open over there, and so Heyman's got the Tech News, MedTech News Edition. It's called MedTech News Edition.
He's got an amazing setup of people there, right? He's
Yep.
got it from a policy to, it's very he's curated that really well. I think you guys will really enjoy it.
Yep.
Really enjoy it.
It's a good hang. So thank you everybody for another Tech News Around the World. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yeah. We'll see you over there in